space-time transaction. Exchanging food for the elf princess at the start. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351. The force was so strong that the entire mandible was minutely fractured. No bones longer than 1 millimeter were found inside, and all the bones were almost turned into powder. Logically speaking, if such a huge force hits the mandible on the head, it will probably shake the person's brain into a pulp. But now this guy looks like his jaw is completely rotten, and there is nothing else all over his body. No injuries at all. What kind of terrifying power control is this? After briefly checking Li Shanming's situation, the captain of the Internal Affairs Department couldn't help but exclaimed, if you just crush a person's jaw, there are many internal service agents who have practiced martial arts from other worlds. They can do it. Crushing human bones can only be done with one punch point, but under normal circumstances, this punch may break more than just the mandible, and the entire target's head may explode. But such an understatement can break the entire mandible, but it leaves the opponent's head unaffected. This kind of terrifying and extreme strength control is definitely not the low-level ones currently cultivated by Kaishu warriors can compare. As the saying goes, insiders watch the door and laymen watch the excitement. And that's exactly what it is. If it were someone who didn't understand this thing, they would just think Lillian was awesome when they saw this scene. But in the eyes of these insider agents who knew everything, the gold content of Lillian's casual attack was a bit scary and even beyond comprehension. Stop talking nonsense. Don't even look at the environment here. Take him away quickly. Give him a shot of water of life first. Don't let him die. Higher level leaders who had already heard the news and rushed to the scene saw that they were still there. He was amazed and immediately scolded. Although I can't blame you for what happened, but if this guy drags me to death and no useful information comes out of the investigation, then you guys can't absolve yourself of the blame. Yes, although I really want to say a few more words. This man's injuries were all on his chin. Even because his chin was directly smashed and the connected blood vessels were blocked, not much blood flowed. Even if he was left here, he would not die. But seeing the unlucky look on their leader's face, they still had the good sense not to raise their eyebrows at this time. The originally harmonious exhibition scene was shattered by the sudden gunshot. The tourists who were far away didn't know what was going on, while the tourists who were closer were all dumbfounded. This kind of shooting and assassination in public has not happened in Kyushu for an unknown period of time. Now it suddenly appears under the eyes, and the effect is simply explosive. Horror can no longer describe the mentality of these people at the scene. On the contrary, it would be more appropriate to say that he was confused. It wasn't until Lillian left the scene and a large number of people from the internal support department surrounded the killer and carried him away that the people around him realized what had just happened. The audience further away reacted quickly and quickly gathered around. As for the gunfire just now, many people thought there was something important going on here, and they were setting off firecrackers. Naturally, I wanted to come over and watch the fun. After figuring out what happened, there was a brief period of confusion, and then the situation exploded. Someone actually dares to commit murder with a gun in broad daylight, or on an important occasion like the Kyushu Air Show. It's really lawless. This guy really doesn't know how to write the word death, does he? Is this kind of thing possible? This is really scary, but I heard that there were no casualties, which is lucky. This weird and rare thing happened, and it was not just the audience who was shocked. As people present took the photos, videos, and people at the air show proactively broke the news about casualties, and some unknown forces secretly added fuel to the flames. Soon entries about related events became popular on major portal websites. Unlike many people in the audience who have not figured out what major events happened in Kyushu today because they participated in the air show, netizens are much better at collecting information. A shooting case occurred at an air show, and the target of the assassination was a beautiful woman. She was protected by many mysterious men in Chinese tunic suits. These people looked like internal staff at first glance, to dare to take such a big risk and do such a thing in such a public place. The identity of this woman must not be simple. The photo is a bit blurry, so I can't identify who it is, but he is so young and has a high status. I guess he must be a second generation person. Haha. Apart from these second generation people, who else has such a pomp? In my opinion, the assassination was good, but it's a pity that it didn't succeed. No, you guys are just guessing and guessing, and the second generation has already come out. Have you ever seen a second generation so and so who was protected by so many internal service agents when he went out? Isn't this the envoy from another world who came to visit Kyushu this morning? Wait a minute, messenger from another world, isn't that in the imperial capital? Why did you come to the air show in the south all of a sudden? This is only a little distance away, and it only takes a few minutes to get on the landing craft of Shiranayu Group. Don't you read the announcements made by the Foreign Affairs Department? Before I came here, the diplomatic department had already issued an itinerary notice, and it clearly stated that I was going to come to the air show this afternoon. Does this prove that he is a messenger from another world? Isn't that enough? Besides this person, who else has this kind of face at the air show today? Moreover, she is young and beautiful, with red hair, which perfectly fits the image of the messenger. In other words, the clothes she wore are different from those in the morning, which is normal. In the morning, she attended our welcome ceremony, so she must have dressed more formally. In the afternoon, she was visiting the air show normally, so she must have dressed more casually. It can be basically confirmed that the person who was assassinated was the messenger from the other world. He just signed a $1 trillion agreement with us, and then he was assassinated. The person who led the assassination behind the scenes is worthy of death. Investigate it strictly. This must be investigated strictly. What's the use of finding out? No one in China should have such courage. It must be done by foreign forces. I will say it directly. I don't need any evidence. I'm 80% sure that this matter was led by the Bald Eagle or a country in the Western camp. What can we do if we find out? Is it possible to start a war? Haha, in the face of such huge interests in the other world, in my opinion, it is not impossible to start a war. I'm dying of laughter. You are playing with me again. A few words of condemnation are enough. How dare you start a war with others? Don't laugh first. As far as I know, this envoy came to Blue Star with Mr. Su of Shiranayu Group. This means that he not only signed a contract with Jiazhou, but also has some related cooperation with Shiranayu Group. With Mr. Su's personality, you guys better pray that the assassin will not be interrogated to find clues related to your spiritual motherland. Otherwise he will not talk nonsense with you. Get ready to eat space-based lasers. Chapter 352. Because Lillian is related to Su Yi, when she is attacked in Jiazhou, Su Yi will be furious and even go to war with some big countries. Those who can say such remarks are undoubtedly political novices, and they are the result of substituting the relationship between ordinary people into the relationship between countries and super large organizations. This is obviously not correct, and it can even be said to be very naive and ignorant. But the premise of all this is that these countries and super large organizations have a normal organizational structure. Modern organizations with normal organizational structures. First of all, their leaders are not irreplaceable. That is to say, even if the leader suddenly disappears now, the organization will not have any big troubles and will continue to operate within the established framework. Just on this point, Shiranayu Group is not a normal organization at all, because the entire group cannot operate without Su Yi. Xianshu and Xiangsun, the two super AIs that almost control Shiranayu Group from business to all armed forces, only obey Su Yi. It is because of the existence of Su Yi, the original owner, that they can continue to operate. And Su Yi can also use his initial permission to distribute part of the permission to other people. Once Su Yi disappears or dies, the first to shut down are these two AIs. This kind of AI in the interstellar world is essentially the personal property of the initial permission holder. Before an emergency plan is formulated to designate a successor, these AIs will rise and fall with him. If he, the initial permission holder, disappears, there will be loopholes in the underlying logic of the AI, which will completely shut down Unless he, the initial permission holder, is resurrected, even if this thing is sent back to the interstellar world, it will not be repaired. Without these two AIs, the Shia-Nyu group will collapse in an instant. This is not a joke, but a real situation. After all, the upper organizational framework of the Shia-Nyu group is almost non-existent, and all the relevant matters are commanded and handled by two AIs. A super large organization with hundreds of thousands of employees will naturally collapse quickly without a leader. This is a foreseeable thing. Under the mechanism of the Shia-Nyu group, the leader must not be lost. That is why Su Yi can hold absolute power in the Shia-Nyu group, and no one can challenge it. This is not the case with other normal modern organizations. They have a set of fault-tolerant and error-correcting mechanisms, and the leaders are replaceable. Being replaceable means that the entire organization cannot be based on the personal will of the leader. If what you do is not in the interests of everyone, or even seriously violates everyone's interests, then it is not difficult to understand that you will be replaced. Therefore, this super large organization cannot be viewed in the way people deal with each other. Provoking a war between the two sides because of offending the friends of the leader of a large force is the result of looking at politics from the perspective of ordinary people, and it is the result of anthropomorphizing large organizations. This kind of thing sounds impossible for a normal organization to do. But Shia-Nyu group is really that abnormal organization. So after these remarks came out, people who originally thought that this matter would be left unresolved suddenly felt that if it had something to do with Su Yi, it might really be a fight. After all, this is Su Yi's style of doing things, doing whatever he wants, without having to think so much. Although outsiders do not know how irreplaceable Su Yi is to the Shia-Nyu group, there is no doubt that everyone knows that the entire Shia-Nyu group is Su Yi's one-man show. There have been too many cases that have demonstrated his authority in the Shia-Nyu group. As long as he is willing, it is not surprising that the Shia-Nyu group will go to war with a certain force, even if nothing has happened. Under this wonderful organizational structure, Su Yi's personal will can really replace the will of the entire Shia-Nyu group. So it is really no problem to look at the movements of the Shia-Nyu group in an anthropomorphic way. For a while, the news entries on the internet about the Shia-Nyu group doing another big thing were clamoring. Although it sounds outrageous, I guess if the Shia-Nyu group determines who the suspect is, it may really fight, right? No need to think, it will definitely fight. With the current strength of the Shia-Nyu group, it is not an exaggeration to say that it can fight anyone it wants on the entire Blue Star. At this time, it still dares to offend the Shia-Nyu group. What is the difference between this and an old man eating arsenic? I found that some people still underestimated the severity of this incident. In fact, even if there was no special organization like Shia-Nyu group, if this incident only offended Jiazhao, it would be difficult to settle it peacefully. After all, if it is not handled properly, it will involve the interests of the entire other world. The envoy of the other world was assassinated in Jiazhao. Even if it is to appease the people of the other world, Jiazhao can't continue to sit on the Daoite this time. It must give people an explanation, and it is difficult to say what this explanation is. The most direct way is, of course, to launch a punitive war from the perspective of revenge. Yes, many people don't understand what this incident represents. This is a rich man who just came and signed a super foreign trade agreement of 5 trillion. This kind of thing happened on his own territory. Do you really think Jiazhao is made of mud? If this is not solved by thundering means, how can friends in the other world believe in Jiazhao's strength and feel at ease to cooperate with us? Even if it is for the sake of interests, Jiazhao has reasons to fight. I can only say that people who can do such things are really out of their minds. Do they really think that just assassinating an envoy can interrupt the cooperation between Jiazhao and the other world? It's just a foolish dream, not to mention a vengeful Shia-Nyu group. I think the people who dare to do this really don't want to live on Blue Star. At the same time, offending Shia-Nyu group plus Jiazhao, there is really no place for the behind-the-scenes leader on this planet. Even the president of the Bald Eagle will probably have to be beheaded when the mainstream opinion believes that this matter will eventually lead to war. Even if Jiazhao really tolerates it, Chianayu Group will never let the behind the scenes mastermind go. Suyi did not disappoint them. That afternoon, about half an hour after the incident, Suyi's personal social media updated a dynamic. The dynamic is a picture which contains detailed information about Li Shanming, including not only relevant information about Li Shanming's current identity, but also information about his real identity, as well as records of this person's contact with foreign forces to receive large commissions for tasks. In addition to the picture, there is also a sentence from Suyi. The interrogation has made some progress and there should be a result soon. If some people don't come to me to surrender before then, don't blame me. I usually do things in an extreme way. I hope everyone understands. Chapter 353. There are not many people in this world who dare to ignore Suyi's words now. But there are even fewer people who dare to pick up his words. No one who has nothing to do with this matter dares to offend at this time. Those who have something to do with this matter naturally have to pretend to be dead and pray that Chianayu Group can't find anything. Otherwise it's hard to say anything else. Just like what those people on the internet said, a few space-based lasers are probably enough. Kunpeng has been around for so long, and a lot of things can actually be seen from its appearance. For example, some military experts have calculated that it is equipped with a large number of laser weapons through the internal and external photos of Kunpeng that were previously publicly taken. And the caliber of these laser weapons is ridiculously large. If the energy supply can keep up, each laser cannon is a killer when used against the ground in space. Who wouldn't be afraid of normal people? The bald eagle, who claims to be the world's police, doesn't dare to call at this time, let alone other people. In fact, finding opportunities to contact Lillian privately is not only something that Western countries want to do, but many unrelated countries also want to do, and even have corresponding plans. But if the contact fails, then assassination. Everyone just said a few words about this matter when they were talking, but they didn't expect that someone would dare to do it. So after the incident, when they saw Suyi's public questioning, the top leaders of many countries were actually very confused. In some countries, such as Bald Eagle, the official top leaders have not figured out who has such courage for a while. But given the good tradition of Bald Eagle's internal struggles to open up the president's mind, many people in Bald Eagle thought that the people who could do such a thing must be their high-level politicians in Bald Eagle. After knowing this, there is no way. They have too many criminal records. In view of the fear of Chianayu Group, many people in Bald Eagle began to cut justice on the internet. They said that this matter was done by the official top leaders and had nothing to do with them. They hoped that Chianayu Group would be clear and not hurt the good people by mistake when they launched revenge and just kill those politicians. The Bald Eagle executives who were originally prepared to play dead saw that Chianayu Group had not yet announced the results of the interrogation, and their own people took the initiative to take the blame, which made everyone dumbfounded. The sleeping emperor, who was so scared that he had only a few months left in his term, hurriedly held a press conference and publicly stated that this incident had absolutely nothing to do with the Bald Eagle. He also severely condemned the assassination and called the attackers terrorists. He also publicly supported Chianayu Group's punishment of the mastermind behind the scenes. By the way, he also expressed sympathy and hoped that Chianayu Group would not kill innocent people and hurt ordinary people who had nothing to do with this incident. There was nothing wrong with what he said. He not only surrendered quietly, but also expressed his attitude and acted as a good person. Suyi originally suspected that it was Bald Eagle who did it, but he did this, which made Suyi feel that it was unlikely that Bald Eagle did it. After all, Januzhao and Chianayu Group have already made public the existence of magic, but no one in other countries knows what kind of magic there is. This is a bit too difficult for the Blue Star people to understand. The Bald Eagle executives can't be so confident that the Chianayu Group can't find them. But now the sleeping emperor publicly supports the Chianayu Group's punishment of the mastermind behind the scenes. If it was them, the old man would never dare to say such a thing publicly. Because once it is found out that they did it, the Chianayu Group will really kill him. And under his premature statement, Suyi doesn't even need to bear any public pressure To do this, combining these factors, the old Deng Tao said this, and it is not his handwriting, no matter how you look at it. Point of course, this can only mean that the sleeping emperor has little to do with this matter, but it does not mean that the bald eagle as a whole is not involved in this matter. He is just a president and cannot represent all the forces within the bald eagle. Could it be that the little life of the foot basin chicken really did it on his own initiative? Do these 3 islands have such courage? In a weapons test site in the southern part of Kyushu, Su Yi looked at the news he had just received, and his eyes were still somewhat confused. Whether it is the official high-level statement of the bald eagle or the information found from Shianshu, it can be said that this matter has nothing to do with the bald eagle. Of course, there are people in the bald eagle who clamor to overturn the table if they cannot unite and not let Jiuzhou and Xianyu group continue to grow stronger with the help of the power of the other world, but this view has not become their official mainstream. After the previous beatings, this group of people have already been forced. After all, the Western camp is not all fools in power. The current situation is that, whether it is Xianyu group or Jiuzhou, which has recently developed violently with the help of the east wind, and has become something they can no longer understand, they are not something they can deal with. This has become a foregone conclusion. Even if the envoys from the other world are killed now, the connection between Xianyu group and Jiuzhou and the other world is cut off, and external resources cannot be obtained. Could it be that they can deal with these 2 blue star superpowers that are grouped together in the short term? That is obviously impossible. So what is the point of killing the envoys from the other world? What's more, he is just an envoy. If you really kill him, will the other world terminate its cooperation with Jiuzhou and Xianyu group as you wish? Are you dreaming? The interests involved in the cooperation between the 2 parties are more than tens of trillions. Will they quit just because of one person's life or death? Could it be that the leaders of the forces in the other world are all crazy people like Su Yi, who don't consider the gains and losses when doing things? Under these many problems, the mainstream voice of the official high-level officials of the bald eagle is to try to contact them. It would be best if they can contact them and even reach some cooperation through this. If it doesn't work, then they will find another way. Xianyu group and Jiuzhou can't make a big fuss just because they want to contact the envoys of the other world privately. At most, they will condemn and scold them. They are familiar with being scolded. They have long been able to swallow their anger and are not afraid of being scolded at all. This is the plan of the official high-level officials of the bald eagle, and there is nothing else. Of course, as a capitalist country, the bald eagle is such a large empire. In addition to the officials who have the final say, those big capitals are also very powerful. Even if you randomly find a consortium or capital family in it, it is much stronger than most small countries on Blue Star. Naturally, there are different voices within the bald eagle. But it doesn't make sense to blame the official bald eagle for this kind of thing. Moreover, judging from the fact that the capitalists are greedy for money, what they want most is probably that Kyushu and the other world can reach an agreement as soon as possible, and then open up the trade with the other world as soon as possible, so that they can also get a share of it. Killing the messenger of the other world directly and trying to overturn the table to make everyone cut off contact with the other world is not in line with the interests of capital. After all, it is a huge market with a much larger population than Blue Star. Chapter 354. So after careful calculation, under the premise that bald eagle officials are not crazy and private capital has interests in exploring other worlds, the bald eagle, which has done so many bad things in the past, really has no motive for doing bad things in this matter. Moreover, the information obtained by Su Yi and Jiuzhou from interrogating the assassin was indeed not related to the bald eagle. Because all this points to another country that disgusts Kyushu people. Footpot chicken. After using truth-telling magic on Li Shanming, the man himself explained everything he knew, including how he received the mission and why he received the mission. The identity information about this person that Su Yi posted in his feed before was obtained through interrogation. First of all, although Li Shanming has the nationality and registered residence of Kyushu, he is really not from Kyushu. His true identity is the chicken man. As for why he has a registered permanent residence in Jiuzhou, is able to work in a military technology company like Jiazhou, and also becomes an exhibition staff member at an air show. This matter is more complicated. The military technology company that was able to join Kaishu had obviously experienced a certain amount of background scrutiny, but in the end no problems were found. This is not because there is something wrong with Kaishu's confidentiality mechanism, but that he is an ale that was buried in Kaishu decades ago. Li Shanming, whose real name is Takeda Akira. He is the second son of a branch of the Takeda family, and can be said to be a very inconspicuous existence in the family. But this man has been a child prodigy since he was a child. He is very smart and can learn everything quickly. In addition, his mother is the descendant of a traitor who had his coat removed from Kaishu in the early years. She has been proficient in Kaishu dialect since she was a child, and her appearance is different from the well-known Foot Basin Chicken people, but more like a Kaishu native. Originally, the difference in appearance between the Kaishu people and the Footpot Chicken people was not that big. Now that he has this layer of buff blessing, it becomes even more irrelevant at all. When Takeda Akira was 15 years old, the internal situation in Kaishu was turbulent. Shiobaji officials launched a plan to bury nails, and premeditatedly dropped a batch of nails into the interior of Kaishu. Those who were sent here were young people who were in a similar situation to Takeda Akira. They were not very old, but were proficient in Kaishu dialect. He was considered the elder among them. According to Takeda Akira's account, among the people who were sent here at that time, the youngest only 7 or 8 years old. Because the internal situation in Kaishu was relatively chaotic at that time, the public security situation was worrying. Coupled with the underdeveloped internet at that time, the household registration system was imperfect. This gives these external forces a lot of room for maneuver. Many of these methods are extremely despicable and can even be said to be very despicable. For example, Shia Benji secretly and deliberately funded a criminal gang of human trafficking, and then used this gang to traffic people throughout Kaishu. Those who kidnapped their wives and forced them into prostitution were considered lucky people. Many of them were even directly raised as organ providers, waiting for the right time to be sent overseas to Kaishu to replace organs for those powerful people. As for kidnapping and selling children, I don't know how many people have done it. This kind of human trafficking gang supported by external forces was extremely vicious at the time, involving thousands of cases and trafficking in nearly 10,000 people of all ages, and among these 10,000 people, there are these nails that have been stuffed in by chickens in their feet. The well-trained young people and children inside were sold to various parts of Kaishu through various channels, and acquired new identities. After completing their purpose, the Taoxianji official cancelled the funding to these organizations, and erased all traces of their funding of these organizations. Everything seemed to be organized by some crazy people, and took advantage of the internal chaos in Kaishu. Crazy things after the Kaishu officials finally took action and eliminated this organization. These abducted children of unknown origins would naturally have a new identity. Many truly abducted children found their biological parents with the help of Kaishu officials. However, at that time when transportation and communications were underdeveloped, many children did not even know where their homes were, and naturally there were a group of children who could not be found to parents and family. So after these large human trafficking organizations were eliminated, Kaishu officials had a large number of children whose official identities could not be traced. The older one is like Takeda Akira back then, who is in his teens, and the younger one is even a toddler who is just learning to speak. In desperation, Kaishu officials had to allocate funds to build an orphanage to raise these children whose life experiences were unknown. This raising means raising them to adulthood. Of course, many children have found their parents and relatives one after another during this period, but there are still many who cannot be found. For such a group of children who were abducted by human traffickers and had miserable life experiences, no normal person would suspect that there is anything wrong with them. So in the end, when these rescued children could not find their parents, they were all raised by Kaishu official funds. Not only were they raised, They were even given the opportunity to go to school and become literate. Many of them even went to college or graduate school in that era and were trained into real high-end talents. He also has a formal citizenship officially issued by Kaishu. Akira Takeda is one of them. He is already smart and he has received special training from the Footpot Chicken officials. Of course, learning these things will get twice the result with half the effort. After leaving the orphanage, he successfully entered a well-known university in Kyushu to study mechanical engineering and finally graduated with a doctorate. That was more than 20 years ago. In that era, with such academic qualifications, he was undoubtedly a top talent. In addition to his origin in an official orphanage, his background was even cleaner than that of many Kyushu people. After graduation, he naturally entered a military technology company in Kyushu. He worked diligently for more than 20 years now. Takeda Akira is in his 40s. During this period, he married and had children. He already has a happy family in Kyushu, with a beautiful and virtuous wife and a pair of children who just went to college. And because of his strong skills and serious work, he has long been the leader of the company's important weapons and equipment maintenance engineering team and has become the best person in the company in this field, with an annual salary of 1 million. Participating in such an important event as the Kyushu Air Show, the company's senior management gave him the relevant work without thinking. He naturally entered the exhibition site as an official staff member of the participating company. Everything was so natural, but the final result was something no one could have imagined. Chapter 355. Faced with this conspiracy that spanned decades, the Kyushu authorities certainly could not predict it in advance. After all, with the chaotic environment in Kyushu at the time, there were simply too many orphans without parents. For these children who were rescued from human traffickers and raised by official funds, the authorities naturally could not be wary of them. With this identity, Takeda Akira was almost unstoppable in any job position and work project that required background checks without any obstacles. Once the official personnel in charge of the background check found out that he was a child raised in an official orphanage, they would no longer have any concerns. In other words, the official Jiraiya Benji had no intention of making trouble in these years and had never contacted him. Otherwise, it is unimaginable how many secrets Li Shanming alone could leak. The key is that you really can't prevent this kind of thing. If there hadn't been this incident, and if there hadn't been magic from the magic world that directly allowed Takeda Ming, the insider, to explain the whole story, even if this incident happened today, the official would not have thought that this was actually a spy lurking inside. At most, they would only think that Li Shanming was hired and bewitched by external forces, and it was impossible to think that this person had problems from the beginning. This was a situation that the official had never thought of before. And it was not just the Kyushu official who didn't expect it, but even the Foot Basin Chicken official. For Foot Basin Chicken, 30 or 40 years ago, they still had some plans to compete with Kyushu. After all, Foot Basin Chicken was in its heyday at that time. As the world's second largest economy, it even had a tendency to bite back the suzerain state of Bald Eagle in terms of economy, and its ambitions would naturally expand. But with the rise of Kyushu in recent years, coupled with the fact that it was slapped by Bald Eagle when it was in its heyday, Foot Basin Chicken has been honestly being its own dog and dared not to show its teeth again. The previous ambitions also disappeared. These nails planted in Jia's decades ago also disappeared from the sight of the top leaders of Jiraiya Benji as their ambitions faded. However, although the top leaders have given up, the nails have been spread out after all. They spent a lot of effort to plant these nails, so they are naturally unwilling to just let it go. So they are still concerned about the current situation of some nails until this time when they learned that Lillian was going to participate in the Jia's air show, and that they had a heavyweight nail just at the air show. The official Jiraiya Benji immediately thought of a very insidious plan. This plan is divided into two parts. The first part is to cooperate with the actions of the Bald Eagle and negotiate with the messenger from the other world to see if they can establish a certain connection with it. If this first step can be achieved, then the second step is naturally unnecessary. Because if the first step is completed, after the Bald Eagle establishes contact with the other world, Jiraiya Benji, which has completely become a colony of the Bald Eagle, can of course also share many benefits, and there is no need to go to extremes. Only if the first step fails, Li Shanming will complete the second step of Zhao Benji on his own initiative. Assassinate Lillian. Whether it succeeds or not is not important, and whether it can affect the exchanges and cooperation between Jiao Zhao and Xianyu group in the other world is actually not important. What is important is that the blame for the assassination of the envoy from the other world can be put on the bald eagle. Because not long before the assassination, a staff member from a well-known company in the Bald Eagle Empire was instructed by the Bald Eagle official to contact Lillian, and failed. Not long after the failure was the assassination. Based on the cause and effect relationship, normal people would only think that this assassination was the work of the Bald Eagle. If this can lead Xianyu group and Jiao Zhao to target the Bald Eagle, then the Foot Basin Chicken can take the opportunity to break free from the Bald Eagle's dog chain and no longer be controlled by the Bald Eagle. Sometimes, this seemingly meaningless action can be very meaningful to certain groups because of different interests. This is the magic of this world. Once things go according to the plan of the Foot Basin Chicken, in the end, whether the Bald Eagle is killed by the furious Jiao Zhao and Xianyu group, or Jiao Zhao and Xianyu group lose the support of the other world because they failed to protect the envoys of the other world. The one who benefits the most in the end is the humble Foot Basin Chicken. They may not get any direct benefits, but they can break free from the dog chain that has bound them for nearly 100 years. From then on, not to mention the vast sea and sky, just jumping back and forth between the two major camps of the East and the West can obtain unimaginable benefits. But the key to all this is that things develop according to their plan. In the real world, it is impossible without accidents. The premise of all this is that after the assassination is completed, Li Shanming or Takeda Ming immediately commits suicide, leaving no evidence. With all the spearheads pointing to the Bald Eagle, the top leaders of the Bald Eagle can't clear themselves, even if they jump into the Mississippi River. But the Foot Basin Chicken has made all the calculations, but he didn't expect that Lillian would not be killed by such a simple assassination method, and she herself is actually a 9th level warrior in the magic world. As an ordinary person, Takeda Akira even had a hard time wanting to die in front of her. The most critical link was that the assassin who deserved to die the most was not dead. All of the plans of the Foot Basin Chicken failed. This was also the reason why Suyi almost immediately believed that the assassination was not done by the Bald Eagle after hearing the official statement from the Bald Eagle. But he couldn't understand why the 3 island Japanese slaves were so bold. Without the instruction of the Bald Eagle, they dared to do such a thing. In the end, it can only be attributed to the fact that these crazy dogs of the island country really like to do this kind of gambling on the fate of the country. They are politicians in name, but they are gamblers in reality. After countless failed gambles in the past 100 years and losing the country into the abyss, they still try to make a comeback through this kind of gamble. But the result this time is the same as their previous results. After gambling everything, their result is still failure. But unlike the previous times, when they survived by chance, whether they can still exist on Blue Star this time depends on Suyi's mood. In fact, after figuring out the whole story, Suyi still has a little thing to think about. That is, this Takeda Ming, that is, Li Shanming, actually cooperated with the official Zhao Benji to do this kind of thing. He is not alone when he was just sent to Kyushu. Instead, he has already started a family and a career in Kyushu with both sons and daughters, and has lost contact with Zhao Benji for more than 20 years. In this case, he can be mobilized by the official Zhao Benji with a single order to do this kind of thing, that he will die, no matter whether he succeeds or fails. The magic here is even not inferior to the classic operation of betting on the fate of the country. In addition to being crazy, Suyi really couldn't figure out how to describe this kind of person. Chapter 356. How do you think this matter should be handled better? At the edge of the weapons test site, Suyi sat on a bench and looked at the scenery in the distance and asked Yuling beside him casually, from this information, it should be the chicken who planned the assassination of Lillian. Yuling thought about it and said, you don't seem to like this country. There are so many countries I hate, but if I say that this is the only one that really disgusts me, you Ling smiled slightly and said, "It's only about 100 million people, which is nothing for the entire blue star. Since you don't like it, let them all die." So Yi was speechless. Sure enough, these people from the metaphysical side world don't seem to have much respect for life. The life and death of hundreds of millions of people seems to be not worth mentioning in Yuling's eyes, but this can't be said to be cold-blooded or anything like that. The metaphysical side world has always focused on the power of individuals, and individualism is always the mainstream point. Although Yuling has been on Blue Star for so long, most of the time, there are still some shadows of the magic world in her way of thinking. For her, the lives and deaths of hundreds of millions of people in Jaya Benji are obviously not as important as making Suyi happy. Of course, it is not ruled out that she deliberately gave such a wrong answer, and then let Suyi say the correct answer, and then applauded Suyi to provide him with emotional value. Yuling really does this kind of thing. Stroking her hair, Suyi pondered for a moment and said, "Forget it, killing too much will hurt the harmony of heaven, so let's just punish him simply. You decide." Yuling naturally would not raise any objections. The next morning, at Suyi's instruction, Xianyu group began to publish various evidences. Among them was not only Li Shanming's confession, but even under targeted searches, Xianshu also found the secret contact records between Jaya Benji and Li Shanming. Although both parties tacitly did not leave any recordings or other evidence that might expose the plan when they contacted. The records of these serious exchanges could not be deleted, although they were transferred many times and encrypted by various means. Under the terrifying computing power of Xianshu, these encryption methods and transferred contacts were as vulnerable as children playing house, and were quickly investigated. When the truth was announced, the whole world was dumbfounded. No one expected that a small chicken would dare to take advantage of the situation and do such a thing as dancing on the edge of a knife, which would be a dead body if it was not careful. The most angry among them was not the people of Kyushu, but the bald eagle people who thought it was a good thing done by their own officials and ran out to cut it at the speed of light. Fuck the Squidfoot Basin. Nice. How dare you do such a thing without the support of our bald eagle? As the defeated party in the Second World War, you should be the rats in the sewer and everyone should shout and beat you. Now you dare to bite back and try to frame our bald eagle empire in this way. It's simply repaying kindness with enmity. Damn you Foot Basin guys. All of you should go to hell. Just how people. This matter has nothing to do with our bald eagle. You must figure out the target of revenge, and don't hurt the good people by mistake. Send troops. Must send troops. Where is our aircraft carrier? Let these Foot Basin people taste the power of our big bald eagle. At this time, even the most paranoid old white man has long recognized the gap between bald eagle and Xianyu group. Of course, this recognition means that they believe that the current Xianyu group does have the ability to compete with their bald eagle, just like the red giant bear back then. But if they really fight, it is hard to say who will win or lose. In their minds, they subconsciously want to avoid conflicts with Xianyu group and Jiazhao, but the reason for avoiding is, I admit that you have something, and if we really fight, you may be evenly matched with me, so I don't want to fight with you, but it doesn't mean I can't beat you. This is the mentality of most people in Bald Eagle now. Don't think it's outrageous. This is a superpower where many people still believe that the earth is flat. The top leaders of the Bald Eagle certainly know everything, but the ordinary people at the bottom of the society who have been happily educated are not much different from illiterates. Therefore, after learning the truth of the matter, these people clamored to kill the Foot Basin chicken. After all, the big son raised by their own family actually dared to bite back. How can this be tolerated? If they can't beat the Xianyu group, can they still beat you? Of course, this kind of talk is just a joke among ordinary people. In fact, with the current strength of the Bald Eagle, the control of the Foot Basin chicken is mainly through economic and administrative means, rather than simple and crude direct military action. If they really want to fight with real swords and guns, think about those Bald Eagle soldiers who can fight the gorillas in the oil region. Forget it. The official statement of the Bald Eagle also came very timely. Lao Dengtao spoke again directly and severely condemned the inhuman behavior of the Foot Basin chicken. Then they directly announced that they would withdraw the Bald Eagle army and the military bases stationed in and around Jaya Benji to protect Jaya Benji. Of course, this was just an excuse. The main reason was that the situation in Jiuzhou had already been established, and the strength of Xianyu Group was even more terrifying. The first island chain blockade originally built on Gyra-Benji had lost its original function point. Even if it was not withdrawn, it would be a waste of military funds to keep it their point previously. It was because the Bald Eagle military was unwilling to give up these overseas bases. After all, these were all reasons for making money. How could Commissioner Smith get it if he gave them up rashly? They kept talking about the Kaishu threat theory. In short, Congress was sending money. In addition, there were some restrictions on the Mutual Defense Treaty signed by the Bald Eagle and the Foot Basin Chicken in the early years under many factors. Even if these bases had long become useless decorations, they were still a heavy burden, and the Bald Eagle was not easy to cancel them. But now it is different. Under the deterrence of the terrifying weapons of the Xianyu Group, the military that originally opposed the withdrawal of troops is now the most anti-war, and they can't wait to pack up and run away from the sphere of influence of Kaishu and the Xianyu Group. Those so-called agreements that were not easy to regret originally after the backstab of the Foot Basin Chicken can naturally be torn into pieces and thrown into the trash can. In this way, it is just the right opportunity to evacuate the troops stationed there, which can be said to kill two birds with one stone. Unlike the previous procrastinating work style, this time the Bald Eagle worked at lightning speed. Less than half a day after Liu Dengtao issued the presidential order, the Bald Eagle soldiers stationed in Gyra-Benji and many nearby military bases had all evacuated. The equipment that was convenient to take away was taken away directly, and the equipment that was not convenient to take away was sealed, saying that they would come back to take it later. In short, in one sentence, pack up and run away quickly. After all, even a fool can see that with Su Yi's posture, he might have to drive the starship to the top of Gyra-Benji and blow it up at any time. If he doesn't run now, when will he run? Chapter 357. The big Bald Eagle took the opportunity to cut off the responsibility and ran away, and his despicable deeds were made public. In this situation, except for the high-level officials who knew about it, everyone else in the Foot Basin Chicken was basically confused. But after reacting, the whole country quickly fell into chaos. Some people still sprayed each other on the internet in order to maintain the dignity of their country, while others denounced the despicable behavior of the officials and made a just cut, saying that this matter has nothing to do with us ordinary people, and Xianyu Group must not look for us if it wants to retaliate. There were even large-scale demonstrations offline, demanding that the official high-level officials of the Foot Basin Chicken who led this matter come out and apologize quickly, so as not to implicate the whole country. The official high-level officials of the Foot Basin Chicken are now in a state of panic. They have no time to care about the ordinary people who are demonstrating in the country, or they are too lazy to care. At this moment, they all gathered together according to their factions, eagerly discussing what to do. The situation that led to this chaos quickly spread like a plague under the official indulgence, spreading to the entire Foot Basin Chicken. For a while, in addition to the people who were marching, many people with ulterior motives took the opportunity to smash, loot and burn, and the situation was extremely chaotic. Many people who were still clear-headed exchanged the currency on hand without thinking, after seeing the situation clearly, and then took their families away. If you can buy a plane ticket, buy a plane ticket. If you can't buy a plane ticket, take a boat and run away. The cruise ship is full, so the freighter can make do. Anyway, when the whole country is in chaos and the official upper echelons are in a panic and don't care about things all day, the customs has no intention of checking whether the freighter has violated the rules by bringing people. In short, it is serious to run away quickly. Su Yi didn't expect that he had just released some evidence and hadn't said how to deal with the chicken in the basin. In less than a day, the whole country was in chaos. Because of this, it's quite outrageous. But since the truth of this matter has been revealed, he is too lazy to drag it on. On the morning of the second day after the evidence was released, the official account of Xianyu Group announced the decision on the handling of this incident. Recently, the envoys from another world were attacked while visiting Jiuzhou. After a joint investigation between our company and Jiuzhou officials, we learned that the mastermind behind the attack was many people from the official Gyra-Benji, headed by Xian Huang. In view of the extremely bad nature of this attack and its extremely sinister intentions, which almost led to irreversible consequences, our company will launch a strike against Jaya Benji as a punishment when we have solid evidence. This strike mission will be carried out by the in-orbit Kunpeng space attack ship, which aims to deter the scoundrels and punish them severely. It will carry out precise strikes on the target locations of Jaya Benji Kyoto Imperial Palace, Prime Minister's residence, Yasukuni Shrine and other target locations in 3 hours. After the punitive strike, our company requires the official Jaya Benji, including Cheyenne Huang, who participated in planning this incident, to go to Penglai Island as war criminals, apologize to the victim, Ms. Lillian, in person, and accept the relevant trial. In order to prevent such a bad world from happening again, Cheyenne Group has drafted a Foot Basin Chicken Country Security Agreement, and the content of the agreement will be made public to the world later. Please check it yourself. Of course, all the above content is a notification from Cheyenne Group, not a negotiation. But as one of the traditional powers of Blue Star, Foot Basin Chicken also has the right to refuse the above notification. You can refuse the punishment and stay in the marked attack location to live and die with it. You can also refuse to apologize and resist to the end. You can also refuse to sign the agreement. But our company cannot guarantee what consequences will occur after you refuse. Punishment and attack are just the beginning. Whether there will be more attacks in the future depends on your own attitude. A simple notice caused an uproar around the world once it was issued. The most important thing is not the way Cheyenne Group handled this incident, but the attitude of just a notification, not a negotiation, and crushing you to death is none of your business. Although before this, the strength shown by Cheyenne Group in several conflicts with the Bald Eagle was enough to let the world know that they are now invincible in Blue Star. But before that, Cheyenne Group had never done anything too extreme. After doing something in Here's How, it cut off all information so that few people knew about it. Moreover, Cheyenne Group has always been regarded as a company. Even in the tax disclosure information released by GSO officials, Cheyenne Group has paid the full amount of taxes on time. This has led many people to believe that Cheyenne Group is awesome, but it is just a company after all. Previously, many leaders of small countries took the initiative to go to Penglai Island, but could not even see Suyi. After this information was announced on the social platform, it also caused a lot of complaints. Many people also felt that Suyi's business was expanding, and the boss of a company dared not give face to those official heads. After all, no matter how small a country is, in the eyes of most people, it is not comparable to some companies until now. This notice that looked down on the chicken and the Foot Basin from a high position gave people the feeling that I'm not pretending anymore, I'm showing my cards. The actual situation is that Cheyenne Group has long had the power to look down on everything on Blue Star, but Suyi has always kept a low profile before. Apart from dealing with the Bald Eagle, he rarely takes the initiative to do anything on Blue Star. This makes everyone who pays attention to this matter feel like they are in another world. But the shock is far from over. Soon after the announcement was released, Cheyenne Group released all the content of the Foot Basin Chicken Country Security Agreement. The content of this agreement is so confusing that normal people would be confused. Here's how people would want to open Mayote to celebrate, and Zayori would want to hang himself. The first of these is that all the current officials of Foot Basin Chicken are required to be reorganized, and the reorganization is carried out under the supervision of staff sent by GSO and Cheyenne Group. Directly reorganizing the entire official structure and even replacing most of the existing officials is, to some extent, no different from changing dynasties. The second is that officials within the reorganized Foot Basin Chicken official structure must be approved by GSO and Cheyenne Group before they can take office after reaching a certain level of position, and there will be no nationality restrictions for Foot Basin Chicken official personnel. In theory, anyone can become an official of Foot Basin Chicken. With these two combined, GSO and Cheyenne Group will have no problem directly appointing themselves as the Prime Minister of Foot Basin Chicken in the future. Why is it the Prime Minister and not the Heavenly Locust? Because the third point is that after the official reorganization of Jaya Benji, the Cheyenne Huang family will no longer have a transcendent status and will be jointly sued by GSO and Cheyenne Group. with a bunch of charges, and it is estimated that the entire family will be left with nothing. In addition to these heavy bombs, the rest of the opening of trading ports, the abolition of Geobenge's existing currency, and the use of Geozhao currency for all transactions. Geozhao people and Xianyu Group employees enjoy extraterritoriality within the territory of Geobenge, etc., are actually considered mild. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Our Bigfoot pot chicken empire will never accept such an agreement. That is humiliating and humiliating the country. The worst case scenario is a war. The worst case scenario is 100 million pieces of jade. We must fight to the end. In a secret safe house somewhere in Kyoto, the current Cheyenne Locust looked at the fatal clauses in the agreement, and his face almost turned green. He became so angry, before he even finished reading, that he wanted to draw his sword and fight Suyi for 300 rounds. The top officials of the Foot Pot Chicken and some heads of big families who were here together didn't look very good at this time. Cheyenne Lu is not a fool. He knows how powerful the Xianyu Group is, and he also knows how afraid the top officials in the country are of the Xianyu Group's revenge. Therefore, those people and families who were not named on the Xianyu Group's wanted list and asked to apologize, as well as those people and families named in the agreement, were not invited here at this time point. As soon as the announcement from Xianyu Group came out, he knew that he was probably doomed. There is no need for the Xianyu Group to come forward to arrest him. I'm afraid that, as long as he refuses the Xianyu Group's request and takes the initiative to plead guilty and stand trial as a war criminal, a large number of people who are not involved in this matter will arrest him in order to protect themselves. Send it over. Therefore, in order to protect himself, almost no one except his close confidants knew about the safe house he was hiding in now. And these people invited here are naturally as helpless as him under the power of the Xianyu Group. No one wants to die, and the Xianyu Group's current posture is not only to let them die, but also intends to uproot them and the entire family behind them. This is something that these powerful people cannot accept under any circumstances. Therefore, after Xianyu Group issued an announcement lightly, it was almost inevitable that these targeted people would take the initiative to join forces. The remaining people who were not named were already frantically looking for them outside. After all, Suyi said that if the person who cheated did not complete his follow-up requirements within the stipulated time after the disciplinary strike, then this so-called disciplinary strike was just the beginning. No one wants to die. In this case, the only choice is to ask others to die. What kind of spiritual leader is he? What kind of locust is he? You still have to sell it. This has caused the already chaotic China to become even more chaotic. Even Kyoto has fallen into a state of chaos and disorder. People are running for their lives, robbing and catching locusts. Everyone has their own problems, things to be busy with. His Majesty Cheyenne Lu, what do you think we should do next? We all listen to you. In the small secret room, everyone looked solemn and had no doubts about Cheyenne Locust's decision to fight to the end. There is no other way. Everyone is just a grasshopper after the fall, and Suyi doesn't seem to be very tolerant. Now there is no other way but to mess with the locusts. Of course I'll pick up a weapon and fight back. Cheyenne Locust punched the table in front of him. Although Xianyu Group has some strength, Suyi is too arrogant and thinks that everyone in our country will obey his arrangements and accept those excessive agreements. This is absolutely impossible. On the contrary, these excessive agreements will also arouse big-footed chickens. The rebellious spirit of the people of the empire gives us an opportunity. We only need to fan the flames and stir up domestic emotions. Coupled with our original identity, we can gain a large number of fans. In addition, I still have several combat readiness warehouses on hand, which not only store a large number of weapons, but also have many weapon production lines. Although large-scale equipment is difficult to produce, there is no problem in producing some basic individual weapons. By then, public opinion will depend on me, and with weapons in hand, we don't need to confront Shianayu Group head on. We just need to stir up trouble in our country, so that Shianayu Group and Jiazhou cannot easily receive such a large piece of rich land. When they are trapped in a long-term security war and unable to extricate themselves, they will naturally relent. That is the time for us to negotiate with them. His method is actually very simple and straightforward point. That is to make a fuss about Shianayu Group's agreement that anyone who reads it will find a bit outrageous, stir up domestic hatred against Shianayu Group, and then use the weapons in hand to fight guerrillas. Of course, this will not have much impact on Shianayu Group and Jiazhou itself, but it will greatly increase the cost of dominating the other party. Point. That's what law and order warfare is like. I can't beat you, but I can disgust you. Point. Until you are so disgusted that you can't bear it, then you can only come to me to talk. Point. Yes, Cheyenne Locust's method was, to put it bluntly, just because he wanted a chance to negotiate and find a way out for himself and his family. Point. He is not stupid, and of course he doesn't think that in this situation he can still summon 100 million jade pieces to kill all Jiazhou and Shianayu Group. Point. It doesn't matter whether those 100 million people are willing to accompany him to death. Even if they are willing, the starship is hanging above your head. You can't touch the armor of the starship, even if you stack up a ladder with 100 million people. Those named people and family representatives who were already in despair suddenly felt feasible when they heard this method. Best regards, Your Majesty Cheyenne Lu. As long as we continue to fight, the Shianayu Group will definitely be able to stop. As long as Suyi is dealt with, Jiazhou will consider things based on interests most of the time. If they want to gain the interests of our country, they must not want to see public security. If the war continues, you will still let go. HMPH, my grandfather was troubled by endless security wars on the battlefield of Kyushu for several years. Now I want to let these Kyushu people have a taste of what it feels like. The offensive and defensive forces are different. Takeda-kun, this sentence is not used in this way. Just when everyone thought that this method was feasible, a less harmonious voice suddenly said, but all this has a prerequisite. That is, we can win the security war. The whole room suddenly became quiet. Point. Yes, you have to win and hold off first, then it will make sense. Point. If you are vulnerable and are crushed by someone in 2 or 3 strokes, what's the point of fighting a security war? So, will you win? Some people who have served in the military of Jiao Benji and are familiar with various equipment of modern powers thought of the drones and mechanical dogs displayed by Kyushu in recent years, and their faces were a little ugly. Point. The rest of the people looked at each other, hoping that someone would stand up and say that they would win. Point. But after waiting for a long time, what they got was not the promise of winning, but another possibility that made them more desperate. You are wrong. There is indeed a premise for all this, but it is not whether we can win the security war, but whether Shianayu Group or Suyi can see the interests of the country of Jiao Benji. If they don't see this at all, then why did he fight a security war with us? Nuclear bombs, starships, or other means. He has too many ways to wipe the entire empire off the map of Blue Star. Chapter 359. This kind of soul interrogation cannot be asked directly by anyone in the room. Point. Yes, people are already developing other worlds, so why do they still care about the resources on such a few broken islands? If you can control it through these protocols, control it. If you can't control it, it will blow up for you. So what? What's the big deal? The foot-basin chicken Cheyenne who just proposed to write a travelogue was immediately silenced. Point. Land and population are resources, and that is under the premise that humans are still trapped on Blue Star and have not stepped out. Point. Shianayu Group now has no shortage of resources. Then what should we do? Cheyenne Locust asked hurriedly, but naturally he got no response. Point. After all, the gap between the two sides is too big. To put it bluntly, Suyi's desire to crush them is no different from crushing a bug. That's why they have the confidence to inform them directly in an orderly tone, without even bothering to communicate with you. Point. If it is found out that you did it, I will announce how to punish you without saying any nonsense. Point. This is much more unreasonable than the bald eagle who claimed to be a Blue Star police officer before. What should we do? The matter has come to this. For the sake of the survival of our Bigfoot Basin Empire, it is better to ask His Majesty Cheyenne Locust to die together with you all. The voice that kept asking questions was finally revealed. It was a young man at the end of the crowd. Cheyenne Locust was stunned when he saw this and said in surprise, "Who are you? I probably didn't invite you over, right?" Today, the people he invited were all grasshoppers who were on the same rope as him. Even his closest confidants and families did not dare to invite them, for fear that these people would sell him in order to survive. But the person who appeared now was something he had never seen before, and was obviously not from the carefully selected invitation list. They may not even be the original official senior officials of Shire Benji. After all, there are only so many real senior officials. Although Cheyenne Lu has no real power, he still knows them. "Come here uninvited to disturb your majesty." A private marshal with red bean paste. The man bowed solemnly and then said seriously, "I'm here to ask your majesty to surrender to the Shire group. Don't make a mistake. It will harm yourself and the entire empire." Locust, what's more, he dared to hide after Shire group announced those lists. When looking for someone to discuss countermeasures, he only dared to find the unlucky guy who was also named. What he fears is that he will be stabbed in the back by his original subordinates and be arrested by the Shire group as a proxy. After all, as a locust, he knows very well what kind of urine this foot basin man is, and it is a classic operation to commit an offense. Unexpectedly, day and night defense still failed. And he didn't even know when the opponent touched his hiding place. "Come here. Come here. Get him quickly." After reacting, the locust immediately screamed. After all, after being a locust for so long, he still has some die-hard loyalists under him. However, he shouted for a long time, but no one came in to help him. Just when he was confused, the man took the initiative to explain to him, "There is no need to shout. The news that His Majesty is here was revealed by your guards. Now the people inside have either run away or have defected to us. Stop it, your majesty. There are people from the Shire group outside. You, me, and the entire empire can't fight them." As soon as he finished speaking, someone kicked open the door outside, and a group of people in military uniforms rushed into the conference room. They picked up their guns and started shooting randomly. Except for the man who spoke, who had already expected and hid in a corner. Everyone in the entire conference room was saved, and no one was left alive. This big fish, Cheyenne Locust, is the target of special attention. The bullets all over its body may weigh several kilograms if dug out. It means there is a person growing in the bullets anyway. The Shire group only wants to judge these people, and they need these people to be present during the trial, and they have not said that they must be present alive. In order to avoid long nights and long dreams, these capitulationists who advocated handing over all the people wanted by the Shire group to ensure safety simply killed them all and then cut off their heads and sent them to the Shire group later. After all, apart from Cheyenne Lu, who can be named by the Shire group, is not a traditional noble of the Foot Basin country, which force behind the scenes is not deeply entrenched and intricate in China. The risk of capturing him alive is too high. Once the forces behind him discover him and come to rescue him, he might even be escaped. It is safer to die because no one will risk their lives to save a few dead people. "Sir, they are all here. No one has escaped." After hearing the report from his subordinates, the man immediately said, "Well done. Cut off all their heads and preserve them. Head to the airport quickly. The transport plane is already waiting and can take off at any time. Send them to Penglay Island immediately to prevent long nights and nightmares." His name is Murakami Masaru, and if you really want to know his identity carefully, he is just a small colonel in the Takumi Defense Force. In the past, a character like him wouldn't even have the opportunity to kowtow to the Locust in person, let alone arresting the Locust. But things are different now. With the wanted order from the Shire group, the previously aloof Cheyenne Lu and those senior cabinet officials have all become street rats. Most of the powerful people who have not been named are now going crazy looking for these people all over the world, trying to find them. The Shire group sent people to Penglay Island before the end of the time limit given by the Shire group, and launched a very fierce battle with the forces of the named people. In this chaotic situation, he, a small colonel commanding an army of thousands of people, has become a truly powerful man. Many people who were once high and powerful will now deliberately try to please him. But Murakami Katsu is not stupid. He knows that there is no way out of being a warlord. He has such a glorious life now, relying only on the riots caused by a notice issued by Shiranayu Group. When Shiranayu Group and Jiazhou take over Jayaban country in the future, his expanded power will naturally return to its previous state quickly. Even as a member of the old system, he is very likely to be directly dismissed and become a civilian without any power. Having tasted the taste of power, Murakami Katsu is naturally unwilling to sink like this, so he became a fanatic who arrested Cheyenne Huan. The current situation is very clear. The big figures in the original system of Jayaban country are gone. How the country will develop in the future, and in which direction will it develop, will probably depend on the face of Shiranayu Group and Jiazhou. He just wants power, and he doesn't care about any nation state. And in this chaotic moment of power transfer, if you want to ensure that the power in your hands does not shrink, or even expands, you naturally have to stand in line, and hold the thigh of your new father tightly. As for whether this new father is Shiranayu Group or Jiazhou, he doesn't care. Anyway, he knows that if he wants to recognize a new father, he has to give the head of the old father to him. So there was this carefully planned action in the chaos to catch most of the people wanted by Shiranayu Group. Chapter 360. The locusts have arrived at Penglay Island? So soon? What? Is it ahead? Oh, it's okay if you do it first. Who caught it? The efficiency is quite fast. Seeing that he is so sincere about arresting the locust at the speed of light, let's give him an official position. Penglay Island, headquarters of Shiranayu Group. Suyi, who had just returned from Kyushu, was shocked when he heard the news. After all, less than a day had passed since the Shiranayu Group official account issued the notice, and the deadline in the notice was that the named person should come to Penglay Island to apologize to Lillian in person and accept trial within 3 days. Even if you apologize, you will not be given a chance to survive. People who are called out for giving propositions will obviously not be willing to let go. Essentially, this kind of thing was created to divide the Foot Basin country and cause them to fight internally in the first place. This was the plan proposed by Cheyenne Shu, and Suyi naturally did not reject it. The development of the matter was almost as expected by Cheyenne Shu. Under the terrifying intimidation of Shiranayu Group, less than a day after the announcement was sent out, the entire country of Zuopenji was already in chaos except for not directly showing the chariots and horses to start the civil war. Almost all the remaining capable people did it. It's just that he didn't expect that the chicken eating on the island would come out so quickly. Someone cut off the heads of the locusts and sent them over in order to encourage such an efficient enemy mole. Suyi casually established Murakami Katsu's position on the island in the future, which can be regarded as giving this guy his wish. Of course, someone who reacts at the speed of light is not a good person, let alone a trustworthy subordinate. But Suyi didn't care. Anyway, they were in the Foot Basin country, and they wouldn't go to other places in the country, so they could do whatever they wanted. That afternoon, all the main criminals and accomplices in the assassination of Lillian were arrested. Well, it can be said that they were partially arrested, because all Murakami Katsu sent was his head. In short, Shiranayu Group can declare the case closed. As for those agreements, after the leader of the Shiranayu Group was brought to justice, the chaos inside the footbath finally eased a bit. Many surviving families who were not named united and expressed that they would establish a temporary joint official settlement within a week. Chaos on the island, while discussing the signing of the agreement with Shiranayu Group and Kyushu, as well as the subsequent issue of Shiranayu Group and Kyushu sending people to take over compared to killing people, setting them on fire, and chopping off their heads. This kind of delicate work is indeed more time consuming. Suyi was too lazy to take care of such nonsense, so he naturally left it all to Jiazhou. When the time comes according to the agreement with Kyushu to take over and interfere in the internal affairs of the Foot Basin country, it will be enough to just send someone over to hang out. He doesn't care about these little things in this way. Lillian's assassination incident can be considered to have come to an end. Of course, To a certain extent, this matter was actually within Suyi's expectation. As early as when Lillian first arrived at Blue Star, he had guessed that this kind of thing might happen. Xianxu has actually made a corresponding plan. If several elites from Xianyu Group's security department are sent to guard Lillian in power armor, as Xianxu reminds, with these armors equipped with high-end scanning equipment, the assassins want to get closer. It was difficult for Lillian, let alone to shoot directly and empty the magazine in the crowd. Suyi could completely prevent this from happening, but it was not necessary. Xianyu Group can now say that it can do whatever it wants, but it just lacks some reasons. Lillian's arrival just gave him such a reason. Anyway, she is a 9th level warrior, so she will not be killed by these broken guns. Suyi had already told her that something similar might happen to her. If she took precautions, the assassination attempt on her would not accidentally injure innocent passers-by. It can be said that he went with the idea of fishing from the beginning. I originally wanted to catch the bald eagle, but then I thought of a way to take this opportunity to break the back of the bald eagle that was already out of breath. But I didn't expect that the bald eagle was really honest this time. And it was the dwarfs from the chicken country who jumped out to cause trouble. But since he has come here, he will naturally not let it go and crush him to death. But the impact of this incident basically ends here. Mainly because the bald eagle realized something was wrong and quickly knelt down, leaving no chance for Suyi to escalate the matter from Xiaobaji and drag the bald eagle into the water. We should be able to live peacefully on Blue Star for a while. The focus must be on the magical world and solving the problems there. While thinking, Suyi looked at his trading platform membership points. 9864. With just over 300 points left, his points are enough to open a permanent portal to the magical world. For the same thing, it is impossible to earn a large number of points in the long-term transaction process between the two parties, although his transactions with Weiwei during this period were all for bulk goods. Except for the first few times, the speed of gaining points was very slow. Many times, materials and equipment worth billions of Kaishu coins are sent there. When the situation is good, you can get 200 to 300 points, and when it is bad, you can only get 100 points. Logically speaking, at this speed, if he wants to collect enough points to open the portal to the magical world, he doesn't know how long it will take to save them, at least for a few months without even thinking about it. But the good news is there's more than one world where he can trade for points among them. The recent trade of Starship with Balo and the trade of skills with Linear have earned the most points, especially the trade of skills. This thing looks small in size. Suyi only produced a few books and Linear only produced a few jade slips, but it was this trade that the system gave Suyi more than 2000 points. Together with the more than 1000 points obtained from the trade of starships, his points directly broke through the 9500 mark. He is only a little short of opening the portal. In addition to the hundreds of points obtained from the trade with Weiwei in recent days now, he is only a little short of more than 100 points. Xianxu. Are the supplies ready? If he remembers correctly, in addition to the routine military supplies and various daily necessities and industrial products from Jiazhou, this batch of supplies also includes 2 million medium-sized exoskeletons. These are things that have not been sold in the inventory of Xianyu Group. Lillian ordered 10 million units, and Suyi directly took out all the armor stored in the warehouse. Compared to the things and weapons that Jiazhou has given countless times, this is the first time that so many exoskeletons have been sent to the magic world. Based on past experience, Suyi estimated that after this transaction, it would definitely be enough to collect 10,000 points. Chapter 361. It's ready, sir. You can pick it up at any time. This kind of large-scale material transactions have been carried out too many times. Not only Xianxu is familiar with the whole process, but also the people involved in the related work are too familiar with it. There are no bottlenecks or obstacles in the scheduling and arrangement of materials. Whether it is a personnel responsible for receiving statistics from Xianyu Group, the factory arranged by Jiazhou to be responsible for shipping, and the warehousing links in between, efficiency has been maximized. Of course, there is no need to say more about the things that were originally included in the transportation plan. They were all prepared long in advance. and outside the plan, even the messy things Lillian purchased these days can be transported within 2 days. It is completely packaged and stored in the warehouse, waiting for Suyi to receive it and put it into the space of the trading system. This kind of efficiency is very terrifying. Okay, arrange the landing craft, and I'll pick up the supplies in the afternoon. Suyi nodded point, although he is also looking forward to collecting enough points to open the portal. After all, he has accumulated points for a long time in order to open this door, but he still has to eat point. But at this moment, Xianshu said, "By the way, sir, Xiangxuan asked me to ask you something." Xiangxuan? What's going on? Xianshu explained. The transport ship Kunpeng has arrived in orbit above the Foot Basin country, but she has not waited for your strike authorization, and the Foot Basin side is currently very cooperative with your request. So I would like to ask you if you want to continue to carry out the strike. If the strike is cancelled, she can control the starship into deep space orbit. Staying in low Earth orbit for a long time is actually a huge burden on the Kunpeng. The huge hull needs to resist the influence of planetary gravity, the engine must increase its output power, and the helium secondary fuel rods stored inside the transport ship are not sufficient. Not much. I'm afraid the fuel won't last long if it stays at that altitude for a long time. Oh, I almost forgot about this. Let her blow up the intended targets later. They are the ones marked as T0 level on the list. After the bombing, she will return to deep space and wait for orders. Suyibuhi waved his hand in satisfaction. This is just a disciplinary strike. If it is cancelled because some of the people above gave in, then who will believe him if he talks about it in the future? No matter what, fight first and then talk. However, after giving the order, he was stunned for a moment and said curiously, "How long does the Kunpeng carry enough fuel to last in space? As long as it does not perform any combat missions, does not suffer any blows, and is not affected by the gravity of large celestial bodies. It should be enough to support more than 200 years. Xianshu answered instantly. Although this is not her major, it is too easy for her to calculate this kind of data. Then, what if it is used as it is now? You are basically using this starship for ground deterrence. There are not many opportunities to fire. In fact, the energy consumption is very small. It is just that when staying in the low Earth orbit close to the blue star, you need to allocate additional power to resist the planet's gravity, so it just speeds up energy consumption, Xianshu explained. Besides, this kind of behavior is not routine, so it will not have a big impact on the ship's endurance. It is conservatively estimated that the fuel can support it to continue to stand by in its current state for more than 150 years. Hearing this, Suyi narrowed his eyes, suddenly remembered something, and asked again, "How powerful is its engine? If I wanted to enter the atmosphere and reach a height visible to the naked eye, can the engine still ensure that the starship is not pulled to the ground by gravity?" Theoretically, the engine power on the Kunpeng starship is completely sufficient for it to take off from the ground and reach the stars directly. After all, the design concept of this starship is a military transport ship. In extreme cases, it encounters a situation where there is no space elevator to connect to the surface. A deserted planet needs to take off from the ground, so it should be able to do what you said, but the energy consumption would probably be astronomical. You said so many words that are of no use. Xiangxuan didn't know if she couldn't stand it anymore, so she directly borrowed the holographic projection in the office to show up and said to Suyi, "Captain, if you lower the height of the starship to a level visible to the naked eye according to your request, and give a shocking visual effect on the ground, then this would probably consume a quarter of the fuel rods currently stored inside the starship." A quarter? Suyi nodded and asked again, "Will it cause other problems? For example, excessive load may cause engine damage, or the reactor output power cannot keep up." It is basically impossible. Even if such problems occur, it will not affect the core components. Some unimportant parts are damaged and can be repaired with the current technical level of Blue Star. Xiangxuan is a ship-based AI after all. For these Dunxi knew much better than Xianshu and said directly, what Xianshu said is not a big problem. As a military transport ship, this starship was designed to make an emergency landing on the planet's surface. It is far more durable than you think, and it is not what Blue Star people think it is. A precious lump that cannot be touched. Well, I understand. Let's continue with the strike mission. After it's over, you can have the starship return to deep space orbit and be on standby. I'll have a more important mission for you next time. After Suyi finished explaining, after thinking about it, he felt like something was wrong. Looking at Xiangsun, who was still appearing as a ship girl in a special military uniform. He looked at the avatar of Xianshu, was stunned for a moment, then looked at Xiangsun and said, "No, who taught you to talk like this? It's the same thing, compared to other intelligent beings from other worlds. Suyi needs to give them the whole world language card to ensure that they can communicate smoothly after coming to Blue Star. These AIs obviously don't need these things, as long as they are connected to the internet. With this AI's learning speed, they can learn the language of the entire Blue Star in a few seconds, so in theory, he shouldn't feel strange about what Xiangsun said. But compared with Xianshu, who has always been serious, Xiangsun seems to be a little too lively. This is completely different from when she first came. What is tough and durable? What is precious? These words are close to dialect slang, but people who understand Kaishu know what they mean. In fact, from the perspective of language, such words are not rigorous enough, and Xianshu never speaks like this. I learned it myself. Did I learn it wrong? Xiangsun's face showed human doubts, and he seemed to be a little proud. Suyi couldn't do it. No, are you really AI? Chapter 362. Although they are all AI, there are also hierarchical distinctions among them. As the shipboard AI on the latest starship, Xiangsun's algorithm structure is actually different from that of Xianshu. Her algorithm is more advanced, more efficient, and more flexible to help starships cope with various situations in wartime, complex environments and emergencies. Although Xianshu emphasizes step-by-step rigor and logic compared to Xiangsun, and is not as flexible as Xiangsun, her own computing power is much higher than Xiangsun. After all, Xiangsun only controls a starship, while Xianshu is designed to manage a supergiant with over 100 million employees. The two have different purposes from the beginning. Although Suyi knew this before, he never expected that the difference between the two AIs could be so big. Xianshu looks very human-like at ordinary times, but after actual contact, you will find that she does not have the anger of a human at all. Even if you ignore the fact that she has no body, just from the words and deeds, you can see it after staying with her for a long time. Come out, she is not a real person. The way Xiangsun behaved now really made Suyi confused about the difference between a real person and an AI. The use of starships on Blue Star is too little. The starry sky environment around Blue Star is also very simple and uncomplicated, and there is no threat of interstellar war here. Therefore, her workload is very small, so she uses a lot of computing power. It is used in the emotional module to imitate the living habits and speaking habits of Blue Star humans through the internet. Xianshu directly stated the reason. The tone was very calm, but Suyi always felt that there was resentment in her words. After all, compared to Xiangsun, who hangs in the sky with nothing to do and hides on the internet to secretly observe human beings, Xianshu is extremely busy every day. She is basically responsible for the overall management of all matters of Xianyu Group. Suyi, the nominal big boss, doesn't care at all. And CEO Yuling is even more important. He may not even know how many departments there are in the company. And in addition to Xianyu Group, she also needs to be responsible for managing matters related to transactions with the magical world. Such large-scale transactions of terrifying scale, in which everything involved from leaving the factory, warehousing, packaging, and centralized storage are waiting for Suyi. When I came to pick it up, she had to follow every step of the process, and there was never any problem. This workload is not ordinary. To put it bluntly, for the things that Xianshu is responsible for, Suyi may not be able to find 10,000 management talents to handle them. Moreover, it was impossible to guarantee the loyalty of the people he found, and he could not trust these people to do many things. If you have Xianshu, you will have a lot of peace of mind. Ahem. What about that? I'll ask Bailu next time if they can bring in a management AI to help you share some of the workload. Yi, who realized that he was ruthlessly exploiting the AI, was still a little embarrassed and quickly made amends. However, Xianshu didn't seem to care much about this, but still said in an emotionless voice, "I'm afraid it's not that easy to find another run-owned AI of the same level as me in the interstellar world. Even if you spend money to purchase from the manufacturer, spending such a huge sum of money will probably be suspected. In comparison, now, it would be much easier to just find some external modules to increase the computing power. If you, sir, have any plans in this regard, I recommend that you ask Ms. Bailu to collect or purchase a batch of computing power increasing modules. The cost performance is much higher than directly purchasing a new commercial grade AI host. This is not difficult to understand. Just add more computing power to her. There is no need to buy a new AI and a host." Suyi nodded to express his understanding, but since he mentioned Bailu, he remembered another thing. How is the research on the inherited jade slip obtained from the world of cultivating immortals? Can it be mass produced? After calculations by our professional scientific research team, we have initially mastered the technology for manufacturing this kind of jade slips. The team is currently still studying how to overcome the problem of mass production. Xianshu thought for a while and then said, "As far as I know, the project is currently encountering some bottlenecks. Because this technology involves the human brain, its rigor must be ensured. Therefore, there are some issues that require a large amount of experimental data to support. This is a long process, and I'm afraid it can be accomplished in a short period of time. It is expected that the first jade slips will be mass produced in the next 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. Suyi frowned and said, "Is there any way to make this time go faster?" "Yes." Xianshu said immediately, "If you can purchase an experimental AI from the interstellar world, its characteristics can greatly shorten the experimental data collection process. In the initial stage, the AI may need to cooperate with the team to conduct experiments. After the AI is basically familiar with the core logic of the experiment, it can directly use computing power to simulate experiments, and can complete data that cannot be collected by human beings for decades of continuous experiments in just a few minutes. With the help of high-end experimental AI, this technology can be put into large-scale production in as little as half a month." The biggest feature of AI designed for scientific research experiments is that, after obtaining enough data, it can create a framework to conduct countless simulation experiments in an ultra short time and obtain data quickly. Even compared to human manual experiments, this kind of experiment using AI computing power simulation is more rigorous. The data collected is more complete, and the probability of problems is smaller. These are all black technologies in the interstellar world. Before it truly becomes a digital life, AI itself has no R/U0026D creation capabilities. However, by cooperating with and assisting humans, it can greatly increase efficiency and reduce R/U0026D time. Of course, the premise is that the root of the thing you are studying now is feasible. If this route is not feasible, then you can let AI simulate trillions of times and get no results. The mass production of the inheritance jade slip has proven its feasibility. What remains is the slow work of collecting data and eliminating risks, which is the most suitable for scientific research AI to play. Scientific research AI, I'll ask later, Suyi said with a headache. There are of course many ordinary AIs in the interstellar world, and the price is not expensive. With Bailu's status and position, it is easy to get a large number of them. But he knew very well that Xianshu was not talking about the kind of goods that were everywhere, but super AIs of her and Xiangxuan's level. This level of AI is very difficult to get in the interstellar world, and the only ones that can be bought with money are commercial AIs like Xianshu. As for military shipborne AIs like Xiangxuan and high-end scientific research AIs, they are basically banned and can only be obtained through special channels. It is hard to say whether Bailu can get it. How many finished products of the inheritance jade slips are there now? Although large-scale industrial production is not possible, the production speed of the laboratory is not slow. The laboratory responsible for the project has produced more than 10,000 inheritance jade slips, of which about 3,000 are non-commercial products for experimental purposes, and more than 7,000 are products that have been tested and fully meet the requirements and have reached the standards. 4. Entering the market. Chapter 363. The head of the laboratory contacted me a few days ago and claimed that with the current production capacity of the inheritance jade slips, if these things are allowed to enter the market, they can already break even. He hopes that the group will continue to retain this project and let their laboratory continue research. To put it bluntly, the inheritance jade slips are not complicated in nature. They are just stuck in the stage of industrial mass production. The laboratories conducting relevant research are actually fully capable of manufacturing jade slips that meet the requirements, but the production efficiency of such laboratories is naturally very low, and they can never meet Suyui's requirements. It's just that Xianyu Group's requirements for these laboratories are actually similar to Jiao's requirements for scientific research. Institutions for such commercial projects, you can invest as much as you want in the early stage, but you must produce results. Whether it's a phased harvest or a new discovery, you have to show something. If you can produce something in the research process and put it into the market to make some money so that the laboratory can lose less in the research and development stage, it will naturally be better. Most of the researchers in these laboratories are from Jiaozhou, and they know this too well. So they will take the initiative to report these progress to Xianchu. After all, in their opinion, the technology related to the inheritance jade slip was already very complete when they got it. Although some spiritual power related things involved were novel, they were not difficult to understand with the guidance of special manufacturing methods. The only problem they needed to overcome was mass production. Now that it has been so long and still not solved, the relevant personnel in the laboratory are also afraid that the group will directly withdraw their project and replace it with another laboratory. Taking the initiative to tell Xianchu Laboratory that it can achieve a balance between income and expenditure. In fact, the purpose is to say that as long as the group agrees to sell the jade slips made during the experiment, it is okay to not allocate funds to the laboratory from now on, but they must let them continue their research. After in-depth contact with the magic of this jade slip, the scientific researchers involved in the relevant work understand the meaning of this thing too well. It is no exaggeration to say that this is something that can truly change the future of mankind. For those who are obsessed with research, do not care about immediate interests, but set their goals on a broader space. It is enough to be able to participate in the research of such epoch-making products. It is not important whether there is money or not. So the laboratory is now most afraid of not having funds, but being afraid that the group will dislike them for being too slow and stop them from continuing. Suyui guessed this little thought easily, and after thinking about it, he smiled and said, "Please have someone send me the more than 7,000 pieces that can be used. As for the specific value, you can estimate and give them a reasonable price, which will be the funds for their laboratory. The unused ones will be given as bonuses." "Okay, sir." Xianchu is very efficient, of course. This is also because the laboratory is on Penglai Island. Only half an hour later, this batch of 7,000 finished jade slips were delivered to the designated warehouse. Let's go find Bailu first. After taking the things that needed to be traded with various worlds this time, Suyui directly entered the trading space and sent a trading invitation to Bailu. Not long after, Bailu, wearing a dark blue military uniform and looking heroic, appeared in the space. "I'm in class. What's up?" As a meritorious officer of the Interstellar Alliance who made great contributions in remote areas, Bailu has been staying in the Interstellar Alliance's starport base for training during this period. Originally, her activities in such places were limited, and there were not many places she could go. In addition, she made a big move last time, stuffing a starship into the space and selling it to Suyui. This incident caused the Interstellar Alliance to impose martial law on the entire starport for a period of time, and she could not get any money. However, the Interstellar Alliance also drew its sword and looked around in confusion. Such a big starship disappeared out of thin air. How can it be justified? Although the technology of the Interstellar Alliance is very powerful, and it even involves some space-related technologies, Bailu used the space of the trading platform to directly collect the starship, and the Interstellar Alliance could not understand it at all. In the end, it could only be left unresolved. Good. Suyi took out a jade slip and threw it over. "I'll show you something good. Good thing?" Bailu looked at the jade slip repeatedly, but he couldn't figure out what it was for after a long time, so he had to turn to Suyi and wait for him to explain. Suyi briefly explained the use of the jade slip, which immediately made Bailu dumbfounded. "You mean just such a small thing can directly put knowledge into people's brains and can also help people understand and digest this knowledge?" "You know, the more civilization develops, the bigger the technology tree grows, and how to learn and inherit this knowledge has become the biggest shackle that hinders the progress of civilization. Civilization has accumulated too much knowledge overall, but for any newborn in civilization, they have to start learning from scratch. This is a very complicated process. According to statistics from the Interstellar Alliance, the average age of a person who can enter the laboratories of some companies in the Interstellar Alliance to participate in branch technology research under a certain branch of science and technology is over 60 years old. Note that this 60-year-old does not mean becoming an important researcher in the laboratory, but only learning the basic knowledge of the relevant major from beginning to end, and being able to enter the laboratory to help without being a hindrance. The value of this is not necessarily comparable to that of the graduate students who do odd jobs behind the big guns in some laboratories on Blue Star. In other words, in the Interstellar Alliance, it takes 40 to 50 years for a person to learn from scratch until the knowledge reserve is enough to enter the most cutting-edge laboratory to do odd jobs, and this step is not something that everyone can do. Even if someone enters a cutting-edge laboratory to do odd jobs at the age of 60, he is a genius picked out of 10,000. For ordinary people, let alone 60 years old, I'm afraid that they will not be qualified to do odd jobs. Even if they live for 600 years, this number is very scary. It can be said that the most energetic time of a genius's life is all spent on learning the knowledge left by his predecessors. When he barely touches the forefront of the times, he is already an old man. It is really too difficult to expect a group of elderly people in the laboratory who are so old that they may need help to walk to engage in scientific research and innovation day and night. When civilization develops to this level, if it wants to make further progress, the first thing to solve is the problem of knowledge carrier. The traditional way of accumulating knowledge through reading is obviously no longer suitable for this level of civilization. But is this thing so easy to solve? And now, Suyi put the answer to the problem in front of Bailu. Chapter 364. For a long time, in order to solve the dilemma of knowledge inheritance, Bailu's world can be said to have made countless efforts. This has led to a large number of roots and a large number of conflicts. As a staunch rebel in the Interstellar Alliance, Bailu is actually related to these conflicts when the limited life of human flesh and blood is no longer enough to carry the infinite wisdom of the ancestors. People who have entered the interstellar era began to explore new solutions. Various strange methods have been tried, but in the end, the humans in the interstellar world chose the path of human body transformation. In layman's terms, that is, flesh and blood are weak, and machinery ascends use machinery to replace the weak flesh and blood. This has the most immediate effect. First of all, through reasonable mechanical transformation, people can have a longer life. Since the lifespan of human beings is not enough to learn those vast knowledge reserves, why not increase this length? A genius has to study for 60 years before he is qualified to enter a cutting-edge laboratory to do odd jobs. At this time, he has entered his twilight years, and his energy and physical condition are far worse than those in his youth. But what if I can live for 200 or 300 years? Then is 60 years old still considered old? Just based on this point, don't say whether it is a temporary solution, just say whether it works or not, and the benefits of mechanical transformation are far more than that. According to the idea of the first person who proposed this route, as technology gradually develops, the transformation of humans by mechanical prostheses will gradually cover the internal organs, bones and even flesh and blood from the initial limbs and torso. In the end, it is necessary to partially mechanize the brain, while retaining the consciousness of the person himself to maximize the length of life. And in the imagination, after the brain undergoes a certain mechanical transformation, humans will also have a new ability, that is, through the access to crystal element and other means, to help humans obtain existing knowledge without doing anything. Point to a certain extent, the final solution of this mechanical transformation is really similar to the concept of the inheritance jade slip that Suyi got. Point both of them can master a lot of knowledge without you having to learn. Point it's just that the inheritance jade slip has a physical body. But how can mechanical transformation make part of the human brain mechanized and receive external information without affecting the human brain? This thing is still a long way off in the Interstellar Alliance. Point however, the current mechanical transformation route does not need these, because they have long been the mainstream of the Interstellar Alliance. Point according to Bailu, almost all the top leaders of the Interstellar Alliance are mechanically transformed, and the difference is the number of parts on their bodies. Some people can accept this method of using mechanical transformation to deal with the bottleneck of civilization inheritance, and naturally there are people who can't accept it. Point in a certain special period of time, those who do not accept transformation will be called orphans of the old era by mechanical transformation people, and those who do not accept transformation will also call mechanical transformation people iron lumps of the new era. Both sides can be said to look down on each other. Point, but in the end, it is obvious that mechanical transformation people with longer lifespans gradually gained the upper hand. Point today, people who do not accept mechanical transformation in the Interstellar Alliance have become a minority, and even those mechanical transformation people disdain to pay attention to those who do not transform. Point otherwise, if the conflict between the two sides is intense, people like Bailu who do not accept mechanical transformation will not even be qualified to enter the official system of the Interstellar Alliance, let alone become the powerful military commander of the marginal planet. Point however, although mechanical transformation people have completely gained the upper hand in the current interstellar world, it does not mean that people who refuse to accept transformation are useless. Those who oppose mechanical transformation are not opposing for the sake of opposing, but they really have their own ideas. However, compared with the immediate effect of mechanical transformation, the plan route they advocate may not be effective so quickly. Point among them, the largest force against mechanical transformation is the Dawn Alliance, to which Bailu now belongs. This Dawn Alliance is quite interesting. In terms of the degree of obsession, Suyi thinks it is not worse than the Interstellar Alliance, that pursues universal mechanical transformation, and even better, the Dawn Alliance did not appear when the struggle over whether to carry out mechanical transformation was the hottest, but gradually developed in the past 100 years, when the overall situation has been determined, and mechanical transformation people have completely gained the upper hand. Point this kind of thing is not to say that there is any latecomer advantage. Point it is because of the discovery of a new substance. Point psychic energy. About 100 years ago, people in the interstellar world observed the existence of psychic energy in the laboratory for the first time. Point after decades of research, many famous scientists in the Interstellar Alliance said that this energy is quite special. If we can find a way to use it, it can even transform the human body to a certain extent, so that people can have a longer life without mechanical transformation, and even more powerful power. As soon as these news came out, the whole interstellar world was in an uproar. Those who saw mechanical transformation become the mainstream, and those who kept the original paint without transformation became outliers. At this moment, seem to really see a ray of light in the darkness. Everyone knows that if this technology is really feasible, it is definitely much better than mechanical transformation. Point however, just when everyone was looking forward to it, the Interstellar Alliance announced the closure of related experiments. The researchers who had seen the incident before also expressed their opinions that it was caused by a research accident, and that psychic energy did not exist at all. Point this seemed like a big joke. Point however, how could people who had seen the dawn be willing to give up? So the Dawn Alliance came into being. Point when it first appeared, the slogan was to study psychic energy and find a new way out for mankind. Later, it became completely crazy, and the slogan became psychic energy is the future, completely abandoning science and embracing psychic evolution. Point in just a few decades, it changed from a small civil organization that the Interstellar Alliance ignored at the beginning to a terrorist organization that was given special attention by the Interstellar Alliance. Point well, in short, it is quite abstract. Point, or in this case, Whether it is the Interstellar Alliance or the Dawn Alliance, both sides are very abstract. Point one side is the mainstream, high above, and has abandoned its original intention, and is no longer willing to change. Point the other side is completely crazy, starting from denying mechanical transformation and gradually evolving to denying everything about technology, almost becoming a charlatan, but forgetting that the first to discover psychic energy was technology modified humans. And what allowed them to initially use psychic energy was the blessing of various technological means. All these contradictions are ultimately caused by the inheritance of knowledge and civilization. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365. After listening to Bailu's story about the history of the interstellar world, Suyi was stunned for a moment and said with a subtle expression, "I suddenly thought of something more abstract." "What is it?" Bailu asked curiously. "Your side now advocates the mechanical transformation faction, the Interstellar Alliance, which advocates the continued development of mechanical technology, and the Dawn Alliance, which advocates completely abandoning the development of new technology and focusing on the study of psychic energy, are in a state of incompatibility, right?" That being said, in fact, compared to the giant Interstellar Alliance, the Dawn Alliance is not strong enough to fight. Saying that they are incompatible is just a flattery of the Dawn Alliance. Bailu shrugged. Under the pressure of the Interstellar Alliance, the Dawn Alliance is simply a rat in the sewer, not worthy of being on the stage. Don't look at me like that. I just don't like mechanical transformation, so I didn't accept the transformation. The Dawn Alliance contacted me for this reason, saying that I should be the governor of Kingland Star of the Dawn Alliance. I have nothing to do, and I can get extra money. Why don't I do it? As for how crazy the crazy people in the Dawn Alliance can be, it has nothing to do with me. To put it bluntly, whether it is the Interstellar Alliance or the Dawn Alliance, for Bailu, it is just a platform for making money and resources. She doesn't believe in any of the claims or slogans of either side. She will do these positions if they are beneficial, but she will turn against them in a matter of minutes if they are not beneficial. Point as for her position in the Dawn Alliance, what if the Interstellar Alliance wants to hold her accountable? Cold. If the Interstellar Alliance finds out about her murders and robberies, she will most likely be shot. Point she dared to kidnap the youngest son of the Alliance speaker and ask for a ransom when he passed by Kingland Star. If she didn't get the ransom, she would just kill him and throw him into the red light district of Kingland Star to be a duck. After being rescued, he couldn't even hold his shit without a mechanical hip. The Alliance speaker was so angry that he offered a reward of 100 million Alliance coins to catch the mastermind behind the scenes. As a result, of course, no one has been caught yet, and no one thought that such a cruel thing was done by the commander of the Alliance's orbital airborne brigade stationed in Kingland Star. Bailu is an outlaw in the Interstellar Alliance, and there is nothing she dare not do. Point being a spy for the Dawn Alliance is not really a big deal in her, as you may point. If they are discovered, the worst that can happen is that they can just take off their military uniforms and go to the starry sky to become pirates. Ahem. That's not what I want to say. Suyi quickly changed the subject and then said with a strange look, "What I mean is that they are so opposed to each other, but the inheritance jade slip that can solve these problems in the end is the product of the integration of technology and spiritual energy. Of course, the pure inheritance jade slip is a pure metaphysical product from the world of immortal cultivation. Point. But if you want to use this thing to solve the knowledge bottleneck problem of a civilization, you must industrialize mass production, and eventually it will involve technology. Point. The two forces are incompatible with each other, but the solution is to integrate the claims of both sides. It has to be said that this matter itself is abstract enough. Don't worry about those messes first. How to use this thing? What's in it? Let me use it and see." Lu shook the jade slip in his hand impatiently. "Oh, this. It contains a cultivation method from another metaphysical world, called the Ancient Scroll of Taiyin, which is very suitable for women to practice. Cultivation method from the metaphysical world? To what extent can it be cultivated?" How is it compared to the secret books of magic and martial arts you gave me before? Belu asked hurriedly. She just didn't want to care about the messy things in the interstellar world. It's not that she doesn't understand these things, but she knows very well that any claims and verbal cannons are bullshit. In the end, it all depends on who has a harder fist and more capital. She is very interested in this kind of thing that can greatly improve personal ability. If you practice to the late stage, it should be no problem to tear up the Star Destroyer by hand. Suyi said uncertainly. Maybe it's enough in the middle stage. According to the data of the Interstellar Alliance Star Destroyers given by Belu, if the previous star marks are left, she estimates that she can penetrate an entire Star Destroyer by herself, of course, from the inside out point. If the energy shield of the Star Destroyer is penetrated directly from the outside, and it is torn apart and destroyed by violent means, it may not be so simple. Suyi estimated that a cultivator of the golden core Yuanying stage should be enough. The Taiyan ancient scroll is enough for people to cultivate to the return to void stage, so there is nothing wrong with saying it is in the middle stage. Of course, the only problem is that Belu has actually practiced the cultivation method from the magic world before, and her cultivation speed is not slow. Now she has made some progress. If she practices this again, she will have to start all over again, which may be troublesome. Thinking of this, Suyi still added, the magic world skills I gave you before are somewhat conflicting with this skill. If you want to practice this after practicing that, you may have to abandon your previous cultivation first. However, although the strength you practiced before is wasted, your physical foundation is still there, so the initial entry speed of recultivating this skill will be faster. Of course, all this depends on your own talent in the end. If you have good talent, this thing can be practiced much faster than those magic and martial arts. Lu asked after hearing this. So, the upper limit of this skill is higher, right? Yes. Then stop talking nonsense and teach me how to use it quickly. Belu said carelessly, not polite to Suyi at all. Put it on your forehead and you can use it, but you should wait a while before using it. This thing has side effects, and if your mind is not strong enough, this side effect may be very troublesome. Suyi quickly pressed down her hand that was stretched to her forehead and seriously told her in detail about the side effects of the Taiyan ancient scroll. After that, he spread his hands and said, this is the best practice I can find for women to practice, but I should be able to find a second-rate one. If you want to settle for second best, that's fine, but I guess I'll give it to you after a while. Originally, Belu was a little hesitant when he heard that practicing this thing meant either abstinence or indulgence. When he heard that Suyi said this was the best thing he had at hand, he was no longer sleepy and waved his little hand and said, what do you want to change? If you want to practice the best. This is it. It can also be used in the trading space. I'll try it first. Isn't it just abstinence? I haven't lived well without a man for more than 20 years. Then he saw that she had already put this thing on her forehead. Suyi wanted to persuade him, but he had to give up. With Belu's impetuous mentality of killing and arson, he felt that abstinence, especially forced abstinence under the influence of the technique, was too much. Sure enough, an hour later, Belu, who was originally practicing the technique in his own position far away, came to Suyi without knowing when, and said with a sweet breath, do we have to start the ring mode for sparring? I want to spar with you. Chapter 366. Although Suyi had expected this to happen when he was planning to give this skill to Belu, but after it happened, he felt it was a bit absurd and casual. It was so easy to do. And Belu, a big sister who is well connected in both the black and white worlds and the interstellar world, is actually a rookie. In terms of appearance, Belu was probably at the same level as Yang Yi before she used the magic ingredients and water of life given by Suyi for a long time. It belongs to the ceiling among ordinary people who do not rely on psychic energy to evolve. After using these items containing psychic energy for a long time, Belu is now as good looking as Yuling and Crossing Hen, two elves from other worlds, and has a perfect appearance. And her temperament is different from Yuling, who is as gentle as water, Sanwu Crossing Hen, who seems to be indifferent to everything, and Yang Yi, who is full of youth. It is hard to describe. If I have to say, it is like the kind of little wildcat that Suyi has seen in some literary works before. Clingy and enthusiastic. In short, he stayed in the trading platform for several hours when they separated. Suyi gave Bailu 5,000 of the inheritance jade slips. Suyi didn't ask what she was going to do with them, but this thing would definitely be very useful in her hands. Bailu also promised to find a way to help him build a high-end scientific research AI in the near future. As for how to do it, she naturally had her own way. In addition, Bailu also said that his study in Star Harbor was about to end, and it would probably be back to her old nest Kingland Star soon. She wanted to take the opportunity to do something big before leaving, and see if she could get Suyi a brand new Star Destroyer that had never been opened. In this regard, Suyi's statement was to do what she could, and if she could do it, then do it, and if she couldn't, then forget it. Bailu continued to stay in the interstellar world as she was, and with the inheritance jade slips in her hand, it would be no problem to build a giant company and become a giant in the interstellar world in the future. By that time, what Star Destroyer could she not get? There was no need to take risks now. If she was discovered, her safety would not be a problem. At worst, she could just hide on the trading platform. But I can't go back to my own world, otherwise I'll lose everything. Hiding in the trading platform is essentially no different from being in jail. After dealing with Bailu and her, Suyi turned around and found Wei Wei again. Long time no see. Is Lillian okay over there? As soon as they met, Wei Wei lazily greeted her, and her figure in a gorgeous long dress was full of charm. However, compared to Bailu, Suyi was more wary of this woman. Bailu was straightforward and free-spirited, without so many messy little thoughts. Maybe she was not a good person, but she was definitely a friend and family member worthy of trust. After the relationship went further, she would only think about how to get more good things for Suyi. But Wei Wei was different. This woman was so proactive, and her purpose was also very obvious. That is, to find Suyi to blast gold coins. He didn't want to be a sucker, so when Wei Wei took the initiative to propose a marriage, his attitude towards this matter was also very ambiguous. He didn't directly agree or refuse, and now he has always maintained the relationship of a trading partner on the trading platform. Just to settle accounts with her. If there really was something going on with her, then the accounts would be hard to settle. It was the opposite of Bailu. After trading with Suyi twice, Bailu treated him as a good brother. If he got something good that was inconvenient to sell in the interstellar world, he would just give it all to Suyi. He didn't want Suyi to give her anything, just those magic ingredients and water of life. Note that the inconvenience here does not mean that it is impossible to sell. Snakes have their own ways, and rats have their own ways. There are too many messy channels in the shadows of the chaotic and torn social form of the interstellar world. Bailu didn't know how many murders and robberies she had done, and there were many similar channels. As long as she wanted, the starship she got could be sold in the interstellar world, not to mention other things. Didn't she know that if she only gave Suyi some basic equipment such as power armor, he would have to exchange it with those equally basic magic ingredients and other items? Of course she knew. She was just careless, not stupid. Giving these things to Suyi is mainly out of affection. Give a peach, and you will get a jade in return. Talk about affection with those who like to talk about affection, and talk about benefits with those who like to talk about benefits. This is Suyi's principle of doing things, and it is also the reason why Suyi treats Bailu and Wei Wei very differently. Bailu doesn't care much about gains and losses when helping him, and Suyi is the same. Even if Bailu is in trouble now and needs Suyi to lend his best treasure, the 10,000 souls banner, to kill people, Suyi will not frown. If it were Wei Wei, he would definitely give it, but the price would be negotiable. She's okay. She helped me a lot recently and dealt with some things on Blue Star. Suyi shrugged. In return, I plan to give her a set of exercises from another more advanced metaphysical side world. This exercise is certainly not the weird Taiyan ancient scroll. Of course, this is not, because Lillian is not pretty, but Suyi feels that his progress in practicing the Golden Crow book, the most yang technique, is a bit too fast, and he needs to settle down a bit. If he cultivates a few more people who want to practice with him every day, it might be a bit unbearable. What did you get from the other metaphysical side world? Wei asked curiously. These days, Suyi also mentioned to her during routine transactions that he had matched a new world, but every time Wei asked him where he got it from, Suyi kept silent. But she was sure that Suyi must have got something good. You know, it was her points that could buy Suyi a matching card. Now Suyi didn't tell her what he got from the matched world. When asked, he told her that he would take action when the gods came to the door, but this time Suyi took the initiative to mention the things in that world, which was obviously sending some kind of signal in Weiwei's viewpoint. It made her look forward to it for a while. Sure enough, after Suyi casually traded the items for routine transactions and the things purchased by Lillian, he threw a jade slip over. This is the inheritance jade slip. The function is, after briefly explaining what the inheritance jade slip is for, Wei was not stupid and quickly understood its function. Then he showed the same surprised expression as Bailu when he first heard about this thing. You mean just such a small thing can save people decades of learning time? Wrong. If the knowledge system in your world is so rich that it takes a person hundreds of years to learn, then it can also help people save hundreds of years. Chapter 367. The inheritance jade slip is just like a storage card, and the things it can hold are also limited. The world of immortal cultivation has no idea about this thing. In the knowledge about the principle and production method of the jade slip that Lin Yiren sent, it was only mentioned that some overly advanced exercises would cause the jade slip to be unable to carry. The solution is to refine a larger jade slip with more and more complex array patterns. As for why this can be solved, it was not mentioned, and the principle of this situation was not specifically explained. The laboratory of Shianayu Group believes that this situation is the same as the storage card has reached the storage limit. But this will lead to another question. That is, how much knowledge can be stored in a normal size standard jade slip. The laboratory quantified this thing in a special way and found that the information that can be stored in a jade slip is probably more than several trillion TB. Normally, it is not a problem to put all the current technology trees of mankind and all derived knowledge into it. But in actual operation, it was found that the information that can be stored in it is about 50,000 TB. Every time the size of the jade slip is doubled, the information that can be stored will increase tenfold. The gap between the predicted and actual information can be so large that people in the laboratory thought it was caused by errors in the experimental data at first. After repeated arguments, they found that the data seemed to be correct. Then someone in the laboratory proposed a conjecture. That is how the jade slip can infuse knowledge into people's minds and make people understand it quickly. How the jade slip synchronizes with people's brain waves to infuse information into people's brains has caused countless experts in related fields invited by Shianayu Group in the laboratory to lose their hair on the ground. The person who proposed the conjecture used this as a basis to imagine a more complete theory. That is, the jade slip itself can store trillions of TB of information, but those complex and obscure array patterns have a conversion function. The function of this function is to simplify the originally complex information so that it is easier for people to understand. In other words, when tens of thousands of TB of information are input into the jade slip, it will actually become trillions of TB of information with a larger amount of information, but easier to understand. Then it is input into people's minds in some way through the jade slip. Based on this theory, the situation that the advanced techniques in the world of immortal cultivation cannot be put into the jade slip can be explained. The techniques that can be put into the jade slip are not based on the length of the techniques themselves, but on whether they are advanced. After all, in the world of immortal cultivation, the information contained in the advanced techniques of the same length is probably much more than that of some common techniques. Other people's techniques that can be cultivated to the Mahayana stage are 10,000 words, while your techniques that can only be cultivated to the key training stage are also 10,000 words. Can the amount of information in them be the same? After knowing this theory, Suyi remembered Lin Yiren's performance in the trading space before. and asked the laboratory to try to put the tout etching into the jade slip. The result was no different from what he guessed. It can't be put in. Yes, the tout etching with only a few thousand words can't be put into the jade slip with a theoretical capacity of several trillion TB. The things on the metaphysical side, at least the metaphysical side of Linearan's world level at present, are far more complicated than the world where the highest level technology side Bailu that Suyi has encountered is located. This is probably why jade slips can appear in that world. Even the interstellar world where Bailu lives has all kinds of magical situations due to the bottleneck of knowledge inheritance. If there were no jade slips in Linearan's world, it would probably be impossible to develop to the current level. In comparison, the magic world is even worse. That's why Suyi said that the capacity of jade slips in the magic world is enough to fit the knowledge reserves of their entire world. As for the current technology tree of Blue Star, it is more than enough to fit the whole set of knowledge into a jade slip. In other words, the amount of information in some advanced skills in Linearan's world may be much more complicated than the knowledge inheritance of an entire civilization in worlds like Blue Star and the magic world. This is the gap between a primary civilization that has just started and an advanced civilization. The development of the technology side to the top is probably similar. An inconspicuous branch extending from the huge technology tree is probably countless times more complicated than the entire technology tree of Blue Star. Then, this thing is really good. It can quickly train a lot of warriors and magicians. Wee nodded, with visible excitement. Of course, she didn't show too much surprise. After all, the magic world has a fixed limit. Although the civilization has been developing for a long time, it has not yet reached the bottleneck of knowledge inheritance, and does not know the preciousness of this thing. Suyi didn't care. I don't have time to wait for you to slowly train warriors and magicians. I give this thing to you to help you quickly train a group of reliable and useful subordinates to manage your territory. Wee's biggest problem now is that she doesn't have enough people under her at the beginning. She was just a princess, and her fiefdom was only a border town. Although she has ambitions, and has been cultivating and building her own team of confidants, the size is still too small. Let alone becoming the queen of the Blazing Sun Empire, or even conquering the entire magic world. After she was granted the title of prince, she couldn't manage the fiefs of the 3 provinces of the Mengchuan kingdom, and she had to continue to use the officials who had served here before. That is to say, she has not yet blatantly rebelled and participated in the Empire Chicken Dinner. When that time comes, the middle and low level officials under her, and even some senior officials, will defect in a matter of minutes. And due to the bloodline theory of the magic world, ordinary people not only cannot access advanced martial arts and magic training methods, but also find it difficult to access various knowledge, especially this kind of management knowledge. It has long been monopolized by various families theoretically, without Suyi's help. Even if Wei throws away all debuffs and really becomes the empress of the Qiang Empire, she has to compromise with those aristocratic families, otherwise no one will help her govern the huge empire. But with these jade slips, it's different. When knowledge can be directly copied into other people's minds, the so-called knowledge monopoly is a joke. As long as Wei is willing, she can quickly create a large group of useful officials to help her govern her territory, and there is no need to compromise for this. Compared to the complicated situation in the magic world, this matter seems insignificant, but it is actually very critical. Suyi doesn't want to see that in the future. He helps Wei take over the entire magic world, but cannot develop the magic world because of the ridiculous problem of the family monopolizing knowledge. He has to invest a lot of manpower, material resources and time to solve it. It just so happens that the jade slip can solve this problem now, so of course he gave it first. As for the serious practice method, we will talk about it later. Chapter 368. It does have a lot of uses, but the biggest threat to me right now still comes from those gods. What solution do you have? Can't you reveal it? Wei still couldn't forget what Suyi wanted to do with those gods, but Suyi obviously wouldn't tell her about this. Hearing this, he just said lightly, I said, when the time comes, I will solve it. If it can't be solved, will I still invest so many resources in you? This is really the truth. If he had not found a corresponding solution, Sui would have gradually reduced his investment in the magical world and withdrew the personnel stationed there. It is simply impossible for investment to continue to increase as it is now. Under the premise that we cannot deal with uncontrollable powerful individuals like gods, investing various resources into the magical world is no different from throwing money into the sea. They are both things that madmen would do. We also saw that Sui was still providing various weapons and materials to support this side, so she believed that he could solve this argument. Okay, the deal is over. It's time to talk about business. Sui knocked on the table, pondered for a moment and then said, after this transaction, I probably have enough trading points, and I plan to directly open a permanent door to time and space. What do you say? What are your plans? You don't want me to invest any points, so what plan can I have? You can do it. Can I still refuse to cooperate? Wee rolled her eyes at him angrily. In fact, when she first heard that Sui had the idea of building a permanent portal connecting the two worlds, she was a little cautious. Although it is not like Sui who has multiple worlds that can be traded to quickly accumulate trading points, but apart from being a gambler and using some of her points to buy matching cards, Wee had no use for the rest of her points. I have saved a lot. According to her original intention, this portal required 10,000 points. She would pay 3,000 points and Sui would pay 7,000 points. The investment is a 30:7 ratio, and of course the licensing rights and profits will also be divided into a 30:7 ratio. A portal that spans two worlds, among other things, communication and trade between the two worlds, need to pass through this portal. As the creator of the portal, it is not too much to charge at all, right? Just from this alone, the future earnings will be astronomical. Not to mention the political implications of having control over such portal licensing. It is not an exaggeration to say that he has mastered the lifeblood of both worlds. After all, as long as the permission is large enough, the two-way portal can be turned into a one-way door. I can go there. But you can't come over if some conflict breaks out between the two worlds in the future. The party with this permission will naturally have an absolute advantage. Who cannot be moved by this. However, her proposal was ruthlessly rejected by Sui as soon as she made it out. There was no room for negotiation. Sui would rather wait for more time to slowly accumulate transaction points than give her a chance to intervene. So when this matter was brought up again, Wee still felt a little resentful. But it's more helpless. There is no way, sir. She cannot do without the support from Sui, so she is naturally at a disadvantage in this kind of negotiation. Well, that's up to me. I plan to open the portal in 3 days. You need to choose a place within your territory within 3 days as the location for the portal. So, Yi was not polite and reminded her very thoughtfully, by the way, this portal will connect the two worlds in the future. I advise you to think twice before choosing a location. The site must be spacious enough for expansion. In the foreseeable future, this will definitely be the most prosperous and busiest cross-border port in the two worlds. It is no exaggeration to say that its trade volume can support a city with a population of a billion level blue star modern city. Don't think that you can just designate an area in Mengchuan City. The permanent population that will be attracted by business, trade, cultural exchanges and other activities near the portal in the future is far beyond what your current Mengchuan City can handle. It's better to relocate, and this place must not only be spacious, but also need to have convenient transportation and abundant water resources. It is best to be built on the edge of a large river. In the future, whether it is a very large urban population, industrial production, or material transportation, it will all rely on these natural resources. The waterways of rivers. His reminders are really not alarmist, but practical suggestions on Blue Star. A large port with a busy enough trade can gradually develop into a major seaside town through various factors, not to mention the cross-border time and space gate that will definitely be extremely prosperous in the future. Site selection is definitely a top priority, not only on the magic world side, but also on the Blue Star side. However, Blue Star has rich experience in this area, and Xianyu Group also has Xianchu in charge of the overall situation. Several addresses have been selected early, and they only need to wait for Suyi to choose point instead. He doesn't need to worry about these issues. The magical world obviously doesn't understand things that involve complex factors such as geoeconomics and trade. In order to prevent this silly girl from putting the portal into a corner of Mengchuan City, just for the sake of so-called safety, so I also feel that I still need to remind myself point after all, if you put this thing down, you will definitely not be able to move it, unless you spend another 10,000 points to rebuild it. If it is not placed in Mengchuan City, how will the security problem be solved? We frowned point. Although her territory was nominally the size of 3 provinces, in reality, she could only control Mengchuan City 100%. If Suyi hadn't said it, she would really put the portal in the city. This thing is not so easy to break, and the weak chicken gods over there will definitely not be able to do anything with it. So, Yi really looked at the various parameter data of the cross-border portal on the trading platform point regarding the impact resistance. According to the trading platform, after this thing is built, it will take several hours to refine it in the core environment of the sun before it breaks with this kind of material. From Suyi's understanding of the immortal world, it is estimated that any great power who has reached the level of refining the void in the way of the tower will come and call it awesome point. According to Linyi's speculation, these gods in the magic world are just a group of weak chickens who have not even reached the alchemy stage point. If they can destroy this thing, it would be a miracle. They can't do anything about the door, but if they want to sabotage it, who would dare to enter or leave this portal? And it is foreseeable that those gods are still invisible now, just hiding in the dark caves to disgust me and test my situation. But once the portal appears, they will definitely go crazy, and then they will have to face those gods directly, unless you can kill all these gods in one go. Otherwise, if you or your god killing power cannot stay in the magic world for a long time, these gods will probably become the most annoying flies, constantly interfering with the operation of the portal. Chapter 369. The group of gods in the magic world is not monolithic point. According to Weaver's idea, she is able to attract a group of gods to her camp point. The first ones are naturally the ancestors of their Chiang family point. There are more than one god in it, and there are a lot of demigods. This is the foundation of an empire that has stood for more than 100,000 years with the help of these god level combat forces, plus Suyi's ability to kill gods. She is able to ensure absolute safety in an area point, and this area can only be Mengchuan City point. This is why she hopes to put the portal in the city point. She can't attract many gods and can't protect too many places. If she places a portal outside Mengchuan City, then in order to ensure the normal operation of the portal, she must give up Mengchuan City, her old nest point. But this is obviously unrealistic for her, of course. All this has a premise, that is, the power in a Suyi's hands is enough to kill gods, but it cannot completely solve all gods after all. Suyi had been hiding it, and had not told her what he had in his hand that could be used to deal with those gods. Wedi could only guess, and naturally did not dare to guess too far. Kill all these gods in one move. Suyi thought about it seriously, and then pondered. It's not impossible. As long as you can attract all those messy gods, then I can kill them all. Otherwise, if they hide in some inconspicuous corner, I will definitely not be able to do anything to them. After all, the 10,000 souls banner is just a magic weapon, and it is not a particularly advanced magic weapon in the world of cultivation. Naturally, it has no intelligence point. If you want to kill the enemy with this magic weapon, you have to see the enemy first. It is impossible to shoot in the void. Take the 10,000 souls banner to the magic world, and let those tortured souls and evil spirits in it, who have no reason at all, and only have the desire to kill, and the instinct to fight, find all the gods in this world, and kill them all point. If he really wanted to play like this, Suyi was afraid that the evil spirits in the 10,000 souls banner would slaughter the entire magic world point. He didn't know what gods were, and probably only understood the 4 words kill them all point. His answer made Weni stunned for a moment, and then she said in surprise, "Don't joke. Are you sure that as many gods as come as they die? I guarantee it." Suyi patted his chest point. Are you kidding? What do you mean by sure? You must have it point. What gods? They are just a bunch of rotten fish and shrimps. If you dare to come, you should all be prepared to become brothers in the 10,000 souls banner. If that's the case, Wei said after a moment of silence, I think we can make a big fortune by taking advantage of the opportunity to build a portal. Finally. Got it. Sui immediately affirmed point building a cross-border portal is indeed an opportunity to solve the problem of gods in the magic world in his plan. Point others don't know, but these gods are very clear that the world they live in is locked up and there is no hope of promotion. A brand new world. I'm afraid all the gods in the entire magic world don't want to see it. Point using this as bait. It should be possible to catch a lot of big fish. Point. After knowing how powerful the cards in Suyi's hand are, we suddenly felt that the world is wide and her mind was opened. Point soon. One plan after another was proposed. Point the two discussed for several hours before they decided on the general plan and goals, and they also gave this plan a very middle school but appropriate name called the God Hunting Plan. Point in short, according to the plan, Wei will stop pretending as soon as she returns to the magic world and directly tell the world that she has found a way to another world. Point at the same time, as the queen of the kingdom of Mention, she has also received recognition and help from another world. In the future, she will become the symbol and representative of the magic world and contact another world. Point and that other world is a chosen place where milk and honey flow, where magic power is abundant and has a more advanced and complete cultivation system, and contact and learning will benefit the entire magic world. Point this is a further announcement that she has found a way to make the magic world and the Blazing Sun Empire better. While her stupid brothers are still fighting for the throne, the stupid foreign races in the north are still trying to go south to provoke a war. The dragons on Dragon Island across the sea are still provoking without reason, and the Magic Empire in the south, the Yellow Sand Empire in the west, and so on are still trying to participate in the civil war in the Blazing Sun Empire. Point. So we decided to clean up the house before inviting guests. After the portal is established, she will send troops to the north to wipe out the foreign races, and then send troops to the south to quell the rebellion, wipe out all invading enemies, cut off the tentacles of all external forces, and restore peace to the entire empire, in order to welcome a better life. Point in short, this operation does not mention the existence of gods at all. The main point is to brag about how good the other world is, how complete the cultivation system of the other world is, and how abundant the magic power is, and use these issues that the gods are most concerned about to attract the attention of those gods at the same time. She also announced her orthodoxy and ambition. Point it is equivalent to saying that I will stop pretending and show my cards. Not only did they openly rebel against the Chiang Empire. Point they also described the northern tribes as bandits who were ignorant of the times and went south to plunder, and described the brothers in the civil war in the south as short-sighted idiots who could not see the situation clearly. Point the main point was to offend everyone who could be offended. Point. If you only look at the content of these claims without looking at the purpose behind them, and don't understand what kind of power Suyi behind Wei holds, then the degree of this operation is almost as unbelievable as a queen mother who declared war on 11 countries 100 years ago on Blue Star. The simplified version is, declare war on the alien races in the north, declare war on the eldest prince, declare war on the second prince, declare war on Dragon Island, declare war on the Magic Empire, declare war on the Yellow Sand Empire, declare war on the gods. The simplified version is, come on, I will be the enemy of the whole world. In short, the content is very unbelievable. After it is released, it will definitely make everyone in the magic world think that the Queen of Mengchuan is probably suffering from a serious illness. At the same time, it will also attract the attention of everyone in the magic world. After all, it says that Wei plans to open a permanent portal to the other world at a fixed time. 3 days later, a world with extremely rich resources is not only interested in those gods who are looking for a higher path of cultivation. Point there are also the princes and warlords who are participating in the chicken eating contest of the Blazing Sun Empire, the aliens in the north, who are still hungry and naked as winter is coming, and the dragons who have been driven to Dragon Island by humans and have sung the 7 great hates for tens of thousands of years and want to return to the mainland. Chapter 370. For the princes and warlords who are playing PUBG. Point the battles between Mengchuan City and the northern aliens have long been famous throughout the Chiang Empire. Those horrible weapons of unknown origin have made the brothers drool with envy. Before, everyone had been giving Wee all kinds of benefits. In addition to wanting to win over the extremely popular princess of the Chiang Empire as a spokesperson and appease her, a northern warlord with a large number of troops, they also wanted to make friends with her and see if they could get some of these weapons. The result was, of course, that they couldn't get them. Whether it was Wee herself or the officials of Mengchuan City, they had sent people to contact them. Even those people from Jiuzhou with unknown origins, those princess people also tried to contact them. The result was that nothing could be asked. They could only vaguely guess that these were things from another world through the words and deeds of those people from Jiuzhou and the little information revealed by the high level gods, but the channels for obtaining these things were firmly held by Wee. They were still busy dealing with the PUBG inside the empire and really had no energy to focus on these things. They could only give up for now and planned to wait until they became the emperor of the Chiang Empire and sat firmly on the throne before bringing this matter to the table and having a good talk with their good sister Wee. And now Wee is actually going to build a permanent portal to the other world. And a large number of people and various equipment resources from the other world will pour into the magic world. And this is not the key point. The key point is that Wee openly rebelled. Then they can't help but pay attention to this. The internal resources of the empire are so few, and everyone knows what strength each other has. It is too difficult to change the current tense situation. There is a limit to the power of external forces. After all, there are a group of ancestors watching over your head. You can't do things that sell out your country. Why should other empires help you so much? But if they could seize the portal, replace Wee as the spokesperson of the magic world for the population of the other world, and obtain funding from the other world, the situation would be completely different. Everyone has seen Wee's sudden increase in strength in the past few months. With her little strength, she can rise rapidly with the help of the other world. If they were to accept the assistance of the other world, wouldn't it be a sure win? And this matter is not just a question of whether one can increase their own strength. Wee's current strength has expanded to the point where she dares to announce that she will participate in the game. If they don't intervene, no one can say how much Wee's strength will expand after the permanent portal is established, given the speed at which Wee's forces are expanding. If they really win the game in the south and let Wee in the north become a powerful demon king who goes south to pick peaches, it would be a big loss. So, whether it is from the perspective of strengthening their own strength or curbing Wee's development, they must intervene in this matter. Not to mention the aliens in the northern border. At first, Mengchuan City was surrounded by them for several years. At that time, they really only planned to go south to collect money, grab a wave and run away. It is also clear that when the city was besieged, Mengchuan City was already so poor that it was almost eating dirt. As a result, they can see how the people in Mengchuan City and even the 3 provinces under the Mengchuan kingdom under Wee live now. They can't say that they have fish and meat, but at least they don't have to worry about food and drink. It is even heard that Mengchuan City has recently obtained a large number of cold-proof and warm clothes, which are distributed free of charge by the city lord's mansion to all the people in the 3 provinces in the northern border. Before, the northern aliens didn't know where these things came from. But now that Wee announced it, is there any need to ask where they came from? Of course, they came from another world. For these alien brothers who are starving and freezing in the cold wind, they must find a way to grab the portal and then trade with the other world themselves. Good days are just around the corner. When should we rush in if not now? The Dragon Clan of Dragon Island had previously sent the son of the Black Dragon King to contact the people from the other world, and now it is even more impossible for them to sit back and do nothing. Tens of thousands of years have passed, and humans on the mainland can be said to be more and more prosperous, while the Dragon Clan of Dragon Island is gradually weakening due to the lack of resources and the limitations of the race itself. It must be a foolish dream to want to fight back to the mainland with their own strength. The emergence of the other world is like throwing a big stone into this magical world that is as stagnant as a pool of water, breaking the current situation where humans dominate the world and the magical world. The Dragon Clan is different from other forces that only move after hearing the news. They have conducted in-depth understanding before this. It is clear that, although the people from the other world are also human, they are completely different from the humans in the magical world, who believe in bloodline supremacy, and they cannot be in the same group. Point after the two sides have been in contact for a long time, conflicts will inevitably break out in the future. Point as the Dragon Clan is the most advanced race in this world. The bloodline theory is not so deeply rooted. Point in the case that there is a natural barrier between humans in the other world and humans in the magic world, and this barrier has little impact on their side. The natural people of the Dragon Clan are partners for the humans in the other world. Point the current Black Dragon King of the Dragon Clan still remembers the content of his secret conversation with the people of Kaishu in Mengchuan City when his eldest son was still alive. Point the Black Dragon Prince used magic to transform himself into an ordinary person in Mengchuan City to contact the people of Kaishu and ask them about their views on the Dragon Clan. In this world. Point the answer of the people of Kaishu was Dragon Tribe. They are born with great power, can fly, breathe fire, and speak human language. I read in the books of Mengchuan City that the dragon scales are also very beautiful. If we have such powerful and magnificent creatures, we must put them in the zoo for people to visit and admire. The Dragon Tribe didn't quite understand what the zoo meant, but they barely understood it as a place for people to visit and pay homage by understanding the context. Point however, they could understand the words worship and visit and admire. Point what do people in the magic world usually worship for people to visit and admire? Statues of gods. That status is not ordinary. And what do those humans in the other world say? They want to worship the Dragon Tribe like gods. Isn't this much more sensible than those ignorant human ants in the magic world? These people from other worlds are born to be allies of their Dragon Tribe, and are their opportunity to return to the mainland. As for the Black Dragon Prince, it seems that he died under the weapons of people from other worlds. This must be instigated by the evil humans in the magic world. Those people from other worlds have no grudges against the dragons, so why would they attack the Black Dragon Prince? In short, in order to break the status quo, the dragons must get involved. Chapter 371. The specific operation of the magic world will be handled by Wei Wei herself, which has little to do with Su Yi. He is only responsible for solving the most fundamental conflicts and problems, that is, the problems of the gods in the magic world that are too big to be eliminated. As for the rest, it depends on how Wei Wei arranges and solves it. He is not a nanny, and it is impossible for him to follow up on everything. With such an explosive thing in hand, if Wei Wei cannot attract the attention of the entire magic world within 3 days, so that Su Yi can solve the biggest problem at one time, then she is too useless. Looking back, Su Yi still needs to solve the problem of the location of the time and space gate on Blue Star. There is actually nothing to say about this. After thinking about the pile of addresses given by Cheyenne Shu, he finally chose an island in the southern waters of Kaishu. This island is very special. It became the largest island in the southern waters of Kaishu after the artificial reclamation of the original small island. The area is currently only more than 80 square kilometers. This place is actually far from meeting Su Yi's requirements for Wei Wei to place the time and space gate. First of all, the area is not acceptable. More than 80 square kilometers is not small, but which metropolis with a population of tens of millions on Blue Star is not thousands of square kilometers? Not to mention that the area around the space-time gate will inevitably attract a large number of companies to settle in the future due to the siphon effect of this cross-border port, and a large amount of industrial production land will be needed. But this problem is a problem in the magic world, but it is nothing on Blue Star. Su Yi still has a planetary mining machine in his hand. If the area is not enough, just make it enough. As for water sources, this is the Western Pacific Ocean. There is plenty of water. What? You say that seawater cannot be drunk and has little use. Isn't there nuclear fusion? Isn't desalination enough? The main reason why Su Yi chose this place is actually the geographical location. This place is close to the Yazhou Golden Waterway, which is itself an area with extremely developed trade. Putting the space-time gate here, it can also be built into a huge port and airport that is not inferior to Penglai Island. More importantly, this place is at the same latitude as Penglai Island and is only a few hundred kilometers away from the equator. This is the real point, because Su Yi has a plan to build a space elevator in the future, and there will be more than one space elevator to be built point at present. The plan of SYNOPSIS Group is to build two space elevators, one in the equatorial sea less than 300 nautical miles away from Penglay Island, and the other in the southern waters of Kyushu Point if the time-space gate is placed here. In the future, when Blue Star truly enters the interstellar era, this will be the only two superports and trade distribution centers on the entire Blue Star that combine the sea, air and space trinity, standing side by side with Penglay Island Point. It even has an extra other world port super buff than Penglay Island Point, of course. From this point of view, it is actually better to put these things on Penglay Island Point after all. If the area of Penglay Island is not enough, SYNOPSIS only needs to build it. And it is estimated that no one on Blue Star dares to accuse him of wantonly reclaiming land and destroying the natural environment point, and it is safe enough to put it next to the headquarters of SYNOPSIS Group Point. But after SYNOPSIS' careful consideration, he gave up the idea of putting the time-space gate at the headquarters of the group point. The reason is actually very simple. Point: the time-space gate will drive huge economic activities in the future and bring huge amounts of terrifying wealth to the people around it. Point: but does SYNOPSIS Group lack money? Maybe in the early days, it was short of money because of the existence of a large number of large projects and plans, but now it is no longer short of money. Point: the employees of SYNOPSIS Group are all rich. The most basic employees can earn a decent middle to high income outside, and the quality of life and material conditions they enjoy on Penglay Island are even better than some wealthy people. Point: the outside world now generally regards Penglay Island as a utopia, and calls the employees inside a happy group living in the ultimate utopia of human fantasy. Point: under these conditions, does SYNOPSIS Group still need the economic benefits driven by this time-space gate to make itself earn more? It is not necessary. Point: then, if this gate is placed on Penglay Island, it will eventually drive the economy of those countries on the continent around Penglay Island because of the cluster effect. Point: and what kind of people are around Penglay Island? To the north is a big brother in the oil region. When fighting with the bald eagle, it is okay to say that these big brothers are victims and rebels. But if you look at these people normally, they are definitely a group of charlatans. They are not as extreme as the crazy people in the kingdom of God, but they are not much different in essence. Point: to the northeast is the heavyweight player, the third brother of the white elephant. Point: to the east is the island monkey who used to exclude overseas Kyushu people on a large scale and launched a massacre. Point: to the west is the vast black state continent. Point: it can be said that there is no anthropomorphism around Penglay Island. Point: in order to prevent these messy goods from taking benefits for nothing, SYNOPSIS built all the infrastructure of Penglay Island to perfection, and also built the world's largest airport and port, so that those ships, planes, and passengers who have trade with Penglay Island do not need to settle in the surrounding countries, driving the development of local industries. Now the benefits brought by the gate of time and space are simply not something that Penglay Island can afford. Even if SYNOPSIS expands the island again, SYNOPSIS Group does not have so many employees to digest such a huge benefit. Point: if we really want to force it to be placed on Penglay Island, then Penglay Island must open up to the outside world on a large scale to attract people other than the employees of SYNOPSIS Group to settle in. Point: in this case, it is better to place it in the sea area of Jiuzhou. Point: to put it bluntly, SYNOPSIS Group has too much money to be distributed among so many employees in the group, and now it is going to be distributed outside the group. Point: SYNOPSIS' first choice for sharing the money is of course Jiuzhou, his hometown. Point: is it possible that, if he doesn't give it to the people of Jiuzhou, he will give it to the black uncle of Hizhou, the third brother of Beixiang, and the monkey of the island country? Forget it. Point: SYNOPSIS would rather burn the money than give it to those people. Point: what Blue Star community of destiny? He doesn't believe a word of this nonsense. Point: in comparison, in SYNOPSIS' eyes, some ethnic groups on Blue Star are not as good as the orcs, such as the Minotaurs and Centaurs in the magic world next door, or the civilians of the Chiang Empire. Point: at least they are really hardworking and simple. Point: of course, the location is selected, but the specific method still needs to be discussed with the Jiuzhou officials. Before this, SYNOPSIS had already revealed some information about this matter to Old Man Lin, and I believe that Old Man Lin has also communicated with the above people. Point: the next step is to formally discuss the details of the cooperation and sign some agreements. When he left the trading space and returned to Blue Star, Qianshu had already communicated with Jiazhao and prepared. The location is on the selected island. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372. As soon as he left the trading space, Suyi took the landing craft directly to the island in the southern waters of Kaishu. This island used to be a very small natural island, and it would not be an exaggeration to even call it an island reef. When Kaishu's national power was weak, it was once occupied by monkeys from the surrounding areas. It was only taken back after Kaishu developed. What followed was a long sand blowing and land reclamation project, which lasted for many years. Now the island has transformed from a small reef into a large island covering an area of dozens of square kilometers. It has complete facilities, including an airport and a port. In addition to the Kaishu army stationed here to guard the seaside, it is also used as a dock for some ocean-going fishermen for recuperation and supplies, or as a convenient function for some enterprises' artificial breeding. In fact, if you really want to say it, the military value of this island is far greater than the value in the civilian field. It is not an exaggeration to call an aircraft carrier unsinkable. In fact, this place is usually not open to ordinary tourists. The number of permanent residents on the island is still a mystery. People usually only know that there are military ports and airports on it. In the past, this was the hub for Kaishu to project its power southward and control the southern seas. But now with the rise of Xianyu Group and Jiazhao also taking advantage of the momentum, this hub is not so important. After all, the bald eagle was so bruised that he voluntarily abandoned all the military bases in the first island chain and withdrew all the soldiers and fleets. How dare those monkeys around here make mistakes? Therefore, it is not a difficult decision for Kaishu to give this place to Xianyu Group to place the gate of time and space. The price is not big, but the benefits it can bring are huge. But no one with a brain will refuse it. The question we want to talk about today is what kind of cooperation method is specific. How will the benefits obtained through this time-space gate be distributed between the two parties in the future? Drive. So, welcome. As soon as we got off the landing craft, Old Man Lin greeted us very politely. After all, this time is different from the previous private meeting between the two. Although everyone knows that it is not involved, the matter involved is really huge, and it will definitely rewrite the national destiny of Kaishu in the next few decades or even hundreds of years. Therefore, Old Man Lin became much more serious now. He now represents the Kaishu official and is not here as a friend of Suyi, so naturally he cannot laugh and joke. Let's get down to business. After a few simple greetings, Suyi went straight to the topic. Old Man Lin immediately took him to the prepared conference room. Naturally, there are no such magnificent places on this island. They are all practical bungalows. The so-called conference room is a big room with a long table inside. On one side is a delegation from Kaishu headed by Old Man Lin, and on the other side is a delegation from Xianyu Group headed by Suyi. Although Xianshu was there to help, there were many detailed issues during the negotiations. As the big boss, Suyi certainly couldn't take care of everything, so he still needed someone to help. Moreover, it would be too disrespectful to talk about some trivial matters in his capacity, and someone with a lower status would be needed to negotiate. The facilities on the island are simple. Don't dislike it, Mr. Su. Just sit down. Old Man Lin said in a very official and polite manner. The conditions are not particularly good, but with the quality of Kaishu's soldiers, they naturally clean and maintain it very clean. It feels very comfortable. When Suyi heard this, he seemed to have some pointers. I believe that in the near future, this place will not be what it is now. I hope that day will come soon. Old Lin also smiled, and then directly raised the biggest and most core issue involved in this negotiation. I wonder what Mr. Su thinks about the ownership of this island after Xianyu Group uses island building technology to expand the island and install the gate of time and space. Clearly, this issue is a top priority. This is also the core issue that must be clarified at this time. According to those people, As long as this issue is explained clearly, the rest of the issues will be easy to answer. After all, if you have to say it, this island is still too far away from the mainland of Kyushu, thousands of kilometers away. On the contrary, it is closer to the monkeys in the south. If the issue of ownership cannot be determined, then if there is any conflict between Shiranayu Group and Kyushu in the future, subjectively, Shiranayu Group will no longer regard the value of the gate of time and space and the hub island. Directing to Kyushu will actually make it easier for the monkeys in the south. This is different from Penglay Island. After all, the location of Penglay Island has nothing to do with Kyushu, so the relationship with Kyushu can be vague. Shiranayu Group admits that it is accompanying Kyushu and pays taxes to Kyushu. It allows Kyushu people to go to the island with their ID cards without having to apply for a passport. They only need to grab a ticket to get to the island. Foreigners who want to go to Penglay Island must first apply for a Kyushu visa, because Shiranayu Group only recognizes this is a good thing for Kyushu, and it is naturally impossible for the official to object. It also acquiesces that both parties maintain this ambiguous relationship. Anyway, even if the two parties eventually part ways due to future conflicts, it will not have any impact on Kyushu itself. Because it is not one's own in the first place, and it does not have much geographical influence on Kyushu. But it's different here. This involves the security of the entire southern seaboard of Kyushu. If we don't clarify things now, if any conflicts arise in the future and things become confusing, it will really be a mess. The problems that can be solved in the current era should be solved, and those that cannot be solved must be left to future generations to solve. That is called trusting the wisdom of future generations, and we can only trust the wisdom of future generations. It is a helpless choice. If we don't solve the problems that can be solved now and trust the wisdom of future generations, that is called cutting down trees by the predecessors and exposing them to the sun by the descendants. As for the core issue of the ownership of this island, Old Man Lin had a long talk with those people all night before he came. There were also a large number of members of the top think tank who participated in the discussion. The final conclusion was that on the issue of the ownership of this island, Jiaozhou must at least ensure the same mechanism as special areas such as Hong Kong. That is, no matter what, this is also Jiaozhou's territory. But how the island operates specifically, Jiaozhou cannot ask and leave everything to Shiranayu Group to handle. This is Jiaozhou's bottom line. It is also the condition that Jiaozhou's think tank believes that the two sides are most likely to reach a cooperation. Above this condition, they are worried that Sui and Shiranayu Group will be dissatisfied, causing Jiaozhou to miss such a big opportunity. But if the conditions are more relaxed than this, Jiaozhou will not be able to protect its own interests here at all. The time-space gate is meaningless to Jiaozhou. Chapter 373. Sitting at the negotiating table, it is naturally impossible for Jiaozhou to reveal its trump card first. So Old Man Lin simply took a preemptive strike and wanted to see Suyi's attitude. Suyi was not surprised at all when he heard Old Man Lin's question. Before he came, he knew that this must be the issue that Jiaozhou was most concerned about. The manuscript has already been prepared. And to be honest, he has been on the trading platform for a long time. This kind of issue, which is of great concern to Blue Star people, is not a big deal to him. Hearing this, he shrugged and said, "There is no need to discuss this issue. I'm from Kyushu. Shiranayu Group is a Kyushu enterprise. This island is also the territory of Kyushu. There is no need to discuss the issue of ownership. This is Kyushu. You don't have to think so much. I'm very interested in LAN. I have no idea about this trivial territory on the planet. As for the management issues after the island is built and the industry develops and expands in scale, Shiranayu Group does not have the talent reserve in this area and has no interest in taking care of these things. It is better to let you manage it. These are things that don't need to be discussed. You just draw up the documents and I'll sign them. In the future, on this entire island, the Shiranayu Group will have only one interest, and that is the final control of the gate of time and space. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm the only one with the initial permission to design this gate, and I can delegate it to others. The second and third level permissions are given to others. People from Kaishu and people from the magical world may participate in the management of the gate of time and space in the future, but in the end I'm the only one who can control this gate, so when it comes to the ownership of the gate of time and space, I must require that it belong entirely to the Shiranayu group, or to me personally. I have already negotiated this with Queen Mengchuan from another world. I need a reply and a formal document to be signed if Kaishu agrees. To put it bluntly, these are benefits that Shiranayu group cannot absorb, and Suyi originally planned to use them to benefit his fellow villagers at this point. Money is just a number. What is the use of having so much money? As for power, the so-called power does not mean that you have mastered one more key island. It is called power if you have the title of bull leader with the strength of the Shiranayu group. To put it bluntly, even if Suyi proclaims himself Blue Star Emperor, who can say anything, whether it is feudal or not, backward or not backward, and what kind of ideology is all nonsense. Everything depends on whether a person has strong force, and whether he can make people all over the world live a good life. Point with the resources he has at hand, he can completely make everyone in Blue Star prosperous. Even if he is determined to exploit the tens of billions of cattle and horses in the magical world, everyone in Blue Star will become a wealthy person in minutes. By then, he will hold the most powerful power of Blue Star in his hands, and he can make everyone's life hundreds of times better than before. Will ordinary people object to him becoming emperor? Give it a try. Billions of Blue Star people are probably hoping that he can really live forever, but there was no need for him to do so. Real strength is the source of power. He has such strength, but does not act like the Blue Star Emperor. Naturally, he does not care about the ownership of an island and the interests involved. All he cared about was the portal that cost him 10,000 points. As for other things derived from this gate, they were originally benefits he gave to the more than 1 billion people in Jiuzhou, so there was no need to fight for them. Suyi's straight shot came with full preparation. Old Man Lin, who was ready to argue with reason, couldn't do it. Before I came here, I even said that if we really couldn't reach an agreement, we could explore the bottom line a little lower, as long as we ensure that this place is still nominally Kaishu's territory. After all, the Kaishu think tank's previous view of Suyi was that he was a very pure individualist. Just plucking a hair and benefiting the world is nothing to do. It is not okay to take even a tiny bit of it and damage the world. It's hard for you to judge such people as good or bad. But under this general premise, Suyi has some feelings for Kaishu. The Shiranayu group has indiscriminately targeted and suppressed powerful countries around the world, but it has never done anything to Kaishu. In fact, the Shiranayu group has even consciously given preferential treatment to Kaishu. You can see it by taking off with Kaishu. The think tank's view is that when communicating with Shiranayu group or Suyi, you should adopt a calmer attitude and don't think about taking advantage of others. Just do whatever you want. That's why a fairly loose bottom line has been drawn on such a sensitive issue as ownership rights. After all, this island used to be regarded as the hub for Kaishu to control the southern seas. Now as Kaishu's strength increases, its value is indeed not great. And if the gate of time and space can be landed here, coupled with the expansion of the island, the future construction of the space elevator will become a sea, air, and sky giant port located on the Golden Waterway, and the value will be almost immeasurable. But the problem is that Kaishu can hardly help in the construction of these things, not to mention more. Just expanding this island dozens of times in a short period of time, turning it into a huge island with an area of more than several thousand square kilometers, is not something Kaishu can do. Almost all of them are contributed by Shiranayu group. In this case, Jiuzhou really can't ask for too much, so it only wants to ensure the bottom line, and everything else can be discussed. As a result, they never expected that on the issue they were most concerned about, Suyi would uncharacteristically make a completely different choice from his previous behavior, from pleasing a hair and benefiting the world without doing anything to reaching and benefiting the world. We actively gave up the benefits. Old Man Lin stood up suddenly, stared at Suyada and said, "Are you serious? This is a big deal, no joke. The document we sign now may affect the future for decades, hundreds, or even thousands of years. Of course I'm serious." Suyi leaned back in his chair and said calmly, there are many places in this world that are suitable for placing the gate of time and space, and there will be more places that can guarantee 100% safety without any dispute. Since I finally chose to place this thing in Kaishu, I won't worry about these small things. Problem. Otherwise, if I just find a place to put it, even if I put it in front of the Bald Eagle's Black Palace, they probably won't have the guts to fight with me. After all, this is my hometown, so I still have to take care of it. Old Man Lin was stunned for a long time. After a while, he stood up, looked at Suyi and said seriously, no matter what, Jiazhao will always respect your love. Although this love may not be anything compared to the things you see in the wider world, but please believe that it will last for hundreds, thousands or even thousands of years. Years from now, as long as our descendants are still on this land, they will never forget your contribution to this ancient ethnic group. No wonder he was so out of sorts on this occasion. But the future benefits of this island are simply too great. It is not even an exaggeration to say that if Suyi put all the things on the island and the supporting facilities such as the space elevator originally prepared in another backward place, it would be a black state, or a white elephant. Even Suyi did not give any permission to the local area, designated the land as his own territory, and pocketed most of the benefits the local area can only enjoy some spillover benefits, and in at most 10 or 20 years, it will be enough to create a super economy that is not inferior to the current Kaishu. But now, Suyi plans to give all of this to Jiazhao. You can say that Shianayu Group mainly relies on AI to operate. With only a few 100,000 employees, its size is far from enough to absorb such huge profits. It will eventually be divided. Don't think that it's appropriate for someone to give you a gift. Chapter 374. Suyi didn't have any obsession to leave a name in history. The reason he did this was just because he wanted to do it, and then nothing happened. To put it bluntly, money can't buy my pleasure. As for the so-called history, in fact, reality is often very cruel. To put it bluntly, from the moment he became a member of the platform, he could not be considered a human in the sense of Blue Star. After owning this platform, he can be said to have an unlimited future. History may not live as long as he does. The Chiang Empire in the magic world next door has a civilization history of more than 100,000 years. The history of Blue Star is still too short. The longest Jiazhao is conservatively estimated to be 5,000 years, and the unconservative estimate is only 10,000 years at most. It is very likely that the length may not be comparable to Suyi's next life. So he naturally doesn't care about leaving a name or not. But he is more satisfied with the attitude shown by Jiazhao. At least people don't think it is something he should do. If you do good things, you should be thanked. He has a clear conscience to accept Jiazhao's gratitude. After discussing the big things, we will naturally discuss some issues that are not so important, but must be discussed in advance. Suyi went straight to the point regarding the construction issues. It has been so long since the construction of Penglay Island. I believe you should be able to guess that our Shianayu group has a set of special equipment that can quickly build the required island on the continental shelf in the southern waters. At the same time, we also have another set of special construction equipment modules that can start and complete the construction of buildings in a very short time, and can also rely on our group's AI to provide a complete design plan. Old Man Lin did not look too upset when he heard this, and immediately said, Mr. Su, if you are interested, then we, the Jiazhao official, can contract the relevant buildings on the island to Shianayu Group for construction. Because your construction speed is fast and the quality is guaranteed, we can also offer a higher price than the market price, since it has been determined that this island will belong to Jiazhao in the future, and it is not a special model area, but directly under the jurisdiction of Jiazhao. Then the construction of the island will naturally not be paid by Shianayu Group. Compared with the big issue of ownership, money is a small problem. Just start printing money. Under normal circumstances, excessive issuance of currency will lead to inflation. which will affect the market economic structure and cause serious consequences. But the current situation is that with the influx of a large number of resources from other worlds and the rapid development of Jiuzhou with the help of Xianyu Group, many high-tech industries that originally belonged to the Western camp have been seized. A large amount of wealth is pouring into Jiuzhou through various means, not to mention Suyui's irritability. He always does this and that, stirring up trouble all over the world, but never in Jiuzhou Point. Many investors believe that Jiuzhou is the safest area on the blue planet except Penglai Island, which has attracted a large number of foreign capital inflows. Therefore, this has led to a hint of deflation in Jiuzhou Point at this time. Printing more money is not a big problem. Point and Jiuzhou is now considering not only how much money to print, but also how to send the money without affecting the market environment. Point spending money through engineering construction is an old trick that has been used many times before, and it is not forgotten now. Point. Since Xianyu Group wants to contract the construction work on the island, it can just spend part of the newly issued currency through Xianyu Group. Point. Of course, Jiuzhou actually has a better plan, but Suyui has made such a big concession on the issue of ownership, and Old Man Lin is really embarrassed to argue about this trivial matter. Moreover, if there is no technology from Xianyu Group, this island cannot be built. Point. Although Jiuzhou has the most advanced sand blowing and land construction technology in the entire Blue Star, the speed is still too slow and cannot meet the current needs. This money can only be earned by Suyui. Point. However, Old Man Lin agreed readily, and Suyui shook his head and said, "It is not necessary to give all to Xianyu Group. I want to participate in this construction because I promised the magic world that the time is tight and it is too late for you to come, so Xianyu Group must participate." What I mean is that Xianyu Group will only participate in the construction of the island's foundation, as well as the construction and design of the core area of the island. As long as the time and space gate is landed in 3 days, the island can operate normally. I don't plan to participate in the rest, so I will leave it to your official dispatch engineering team to slowly build it. This is a big project, and it is estimated that many people will make a fortune. I wonder how much money your official has prepared for the construction of this island. 10 trillion. Old Man Lin said in a deep voice. From the expansion of the island to the final completion, we plan to invest 10 trillion in it for construction. Of course, the bulk of the 10 trillion is not the buildings, but the cost of expanding the island. Point. Don't think that the official preparation of such a large amount of funds is making a fuss. In fact, this amount of money is even a bit conservative. Point. Expand an island of tens of square kilometers to thousands or even tens of thousands of square kilometers. It is no exaggeration to say that this is the largest engineering project in human history. Point. If Jiuzhou were to do it by itself, 10 trillion would be far from enough. Of course, if there was no technology from Xianyu Group, Jiuzhou would not be crazy enough to do such a heaven-defying project by itself. 10 trillion. Xianyu Group contracted the construction work from island expansion to core parts, so take 1 trillion as a token of respect. You might as well increase the salary and benefits of the rest and give it to the workers involved in the subsequent construction. It will also solve your current problem of paying money. So, Yi casually gave a price that was so low that the official had previously imagined. Point. After all, island expansion is the only problem that Jiuzhou cannot solve at present. Apart from that, the remaining construction is actually not difficult for Jiuzhou. Point. Therefore, Jiuzhou has prepared a lot of funds for this, but now Suyui has offered a price far lower than expected. 1 trillion is not even enough to pay off a debt owed by a certain enterprise, but it can allow Jiuzhou to have an extra super island with an area of thousands of square kilometers standing in the southern waters. This happiness really came to suddenly. Point. For a moment, Old Man Lin was a little confused and said tremblingly, "Are you really not joking? Do I look like I'm joking?" Chapter 375. This matter itself has no cost for Suyui. Point. It is nothing more than moving the planetary mining machine in the building module. Even if no money is charged, at most the reactor energy bars inside these 2 sets of super engineering equipment will be consumed a little. Point. This kind of super engineering equipment from the interstellar world, the spare energy bars stored in it alone are enough for this thing to dig through the entire blue planet. It is not an exaggeration to say that the loss of this energy is a drop in the bucket. Collecting 1 trillion is a respect for normal market behavior. After getting a positive answer, Old Man Lin almost jumped up with excitement. If the money paid to Xianyu Group is less, then the money left to flow into the Jiuzhou market through this method to stimulate the economy will naturally be more. This simple economic account can be calculated by a full point after the excitement. The next step is naturally to discuss some other issues. A consensus has been reached on the biggest issues, and there are naturally not many differences between the two sides on the remaining issues in view of the concessions made by Xianyu Group in the previous section. Jiuzhou basically accepts everything Suyi proposes in the future, and rarely refutes anyway. These things are not that important. Moreover, Jiuzhou pays attention to courtesy and reciprocity. Xianyu Group has made such a big concession. If you still hold on to some small issues, it will seem too small. Not to mention that, although some of Suyi's requirements may sound strange and difficult to handle, as long as he puts forward them, even if Jiuzhou is difficult to handle, Xianyu Group has solutions to solve them. There is no dilemma at all. For example, Suyi proposed that in addition to the construction of the core parts by Xianyu Group, the Jiuzhou official has only one requirement, no matter who is entrusted to build the remaining projects on the island. That is, all buildings must be in the ancient style of Jiuzhou, whether normal houses or those high-rise buildings. They must follow this principle. As soon as this requirement was put forward, the Jiuzhou architectural experts who followed Old Man Lin to participate in the meeting looked embarrassed. After all, this is an island, and it will be subjected to the wind and rain from the ocean in the foreseeable future. The storms that come at any time in summer are not so easy to withstand. In addition, the corrosiveness of the sea breeze also makes it difficult to preserve the ancient Kyushu style buildings, which are mainly wooden buildings, for a long time. It is easy to build them now, but it is difficult to maintain them later. The most difficult point is that it is easy to build low houses in the ancient Kyushu architectural style. Any graduate student from the School of Architecture can come up with several plans, but how to build high-rise buildings that are hundreds or even thousands of meters high, no one has ever done this on land, let alone on artificial islands with complex environments. There are too many things to consider. Of course, Old Man Lin, who has already received too many concessions from the Xianyu Group, doesn't care about these. When he heard Suyi talk about this, he agreed without thinking. As for the constant hints from the architectural expert next to him who looked embarrassed, he was directly ignored by him. If even such a small issue cannot be compromised, then it would be a bit too ugly. From the perspective of the overall situation, he would never have room for bargaining on such a matter. As for the difficulty, Xianyu Group has solved the most difficult island expansion problem, and you come to tell me that a problem of architectural style is difficult to solve. Although Old Man Lin is old and usually doesn't put on airs, his status and qualifications are here, and he also has official authority. In his opinion, if it is difficult to solve, then find a way to make it easier, instead of complaining to him and asking him to bargain with Xianyu Group again. It is impossible to wait for Xianyu Group to solve all problems, and these people just enjoy the benefits and make money, right? In the eyes of Old Man Lin, this kind of problem is not a problem that can be bargained. Whether the accompanying experts agree or disagree, he will not refuse. And in the final analysis, this itself is not impossible to do. Because the core part of Xianyu Group's construction will also be in this style, and Xianyu Group will build this part first. If you really can't do it, won't you refer to the physical objects that others have built and learn how they build it? Won't you ask for advice or introduce the technology you don't understand? Xianyu Group can make it, but you can't. Do you have less brains than them? When the technology was blocked, our ancestors could still make nuclear weapons with coarse food. Now the conditions are so good, and Xianyu Group never hides this kind of small technology from Jiuzhou, and you still complain about how difficult it is. If you really don't want to do it, just quit your job and don't bother him. Fortunately, after the relevant agreements were signed, the Xianyu Group staff around Suyi saw that these architectural experts were in trouble, and at Suyi's instruction, they took the initiative to step forward and help them out. This island will face the blue star portal of another completely unfamiliar world in the future. Building it in the architectural style of Jiuzhou is not a whim of the chairman or some people in our company. Instead, doing so can leave a deep impression on those aliens who come to Blue Star in the future, and to a certain extent, can increase Jiuzhou's influence in another world. This is a question of soft power. As for the problem that you are worried about, Xianyu Group has a ready-made perfect design plan that takes into account practicality, beauty, and durability, and there are also relevant design ideas. After all, what we pursue is the ancient style of Jiuzhou, not necessarily the ancient architecture of Jiuzhou. As long as the mind is open, it is not as difficult as you think. In addition, we also have a large number of new materials that can solve many problems that you think are difficult to solve. After the specific meeting, the construction departments of both sides can have in-depth contact and learn from each other. Hearing this, before the construction expert from the Jiuzhou delegation spoke, another elegant man with glasses immediately said, "Our publicity department highly recognizes this plan, and we are very grateful to Mr. Su for thinking so carefully. For a long time, we have been focusing on developing industries, and have really ignored the promotion of soft power on Blue Star. Now when facing the other world, it is basically equivalent to starting from scratch. Everyone is on the same starting line. I think we must also pay attention to this aspect. This is indeed a problem that has always existed in Jiuzhou Point. If you don't seize the position of public opinion and culture, others will seize it. And if you are occupied by others' first mover advantage, it will be difficult to regain it later. This is also the reason why Jiuzhou was already extremely powerful, but there were still a lot of complex soft bones inside Point. Now we are facing the other world, and we may communicate with more intelligent life in other worlds in the future. We must pay attention to this aspect. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.